we will recite the entire long one Mangalacharan to invoke the blessings of all the acharyas. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सह गण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साधुवैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सह गण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन् इति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचार निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती इति नामिने श्रीवार्षभानवी देवी दायिताय कृपाब्धये कृष्ण संबंध विग्रह दायिने प्रभवे नमः माधुर्योज्वल प्रेमाढ्य श्री रूपानुग भक्तिदा श्री गौर करुणा शक्ति विग्रहाय नमोस्तुते नमस्ते गौरवाणी श्रीमूर्तये दीनतारिणे रूपानुग विरुद्ध अपसिद्धांत ध्वंत हारिणे नमो गौरकिशोराय साक्षात् वैराग्यमूर्तये विप्रलम्भ रसाम्भोदे पादाम्बुजाय ते नमः नमो भक्ति विनोदाय सच्चिदानन्दनामिने गौरशक्ति स्वरूपाय रूपानुगवराय ते गौराविर्भाव भूमे स्वं निर्देष्टा सज्जनप्रिय वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्रीजगन्नाथाय ते नमः वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नामिने गौरतुषे नमः पञ्चतत्त्वात्मकं कृष्णं विष्णुपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकम् हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्ते जयतां सुरतों पंगुं मम मंद मतिर्गति मत्सर्वस्य पदाम्भोजो श्रीराधा मदन मोहन दिव्य वृंदारण्यकल्पद्रुमादो श्रीमद्रत्नागार सिंहासनस्थो श्री श्री राधा शिल गोविंद देवो प्रेष्ठालिभिसेव्यमानुस्मरामि श्रीमान रास रसारंभी वंशीवट तटस्थितः कर्षन् वेणु स्वनिर्गो गोपीनाथाय नमः तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिय जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे मुखं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघायते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्यईश्वरम् Hare Krishna. Hall is a little bigger than the number of devotees in the hall. We can't have a smaller hall. Okay. Oh, online and more. No, no. Just that. I don't know. I'll try. Chair is rotating, so I'll also rotate. So, try to pay attention to every one of you. So I'm very happy and very obliged, very grateful that I have the chance to be with all of you in service of Srimad Bhagavatam. We are studying Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 20 onwards. 5 chapters you will study in 5 days. Starting with conversation between Maitreya and Vidura, and concluding with the chapter, the renunciation of Kardam Muni. And then next session. So this Samarpan Gopru is a special mercy on me. I'm not qualified. I'm 50% Bhakti Vaibhav student kind of thing. I did 3 cantos with Bhakti Vaibhav style in classroom, and other 3 cantos I read myself. But some of my mercy unqualified people can be empowered to do some seva. So on his order and for the pleasure of all of you and all our acharyas and the Supreme Lord, we are trying to render this service. So we will see a little overview because we are starting after a break. Last month we had Bhakti Vaibhav for all of you? Last month we had. Okay, then it's not too old. Otherwise, if it is happening after a marathon, then it's a long period. So just the little summary to see where we are. And then I don't have any PPT or anything. We will go verse by verse, although I'll give the sections what is there in the Subodhini that you all know. So we'll go verse by verse and read the translation one by one. Some verses we may recite, some we may not recite. And then take 1 or 2 points from the purport. And that's how we will go. So basically, we are studying Bhagavatam together. Only thing I'm sitting here facing all of you. Otherwise, it's all reading. I'm not much of a teacher yet, but we can just share our understanding and just churn it and based on Srila Prabhu's purpose. And for some verses, we may refer to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary also. That's our scope for this section. So I can operate myself whole thing, and then he will be released, or his. Yeah, because if you give me this also and this also, then this will work. The Zoom ID you have to enter here. That because already connected to BVRV. Because he'll have to spend 3 hours. No, nothing, because I will show that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. All of you have it with you in your laptops. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary also. Yeah. Yeah, so it will be good if I only share because he doesn't have all the things which I have. So this Canto 3, this talks of Sarga and Visarga. They want to enter the Zoom thing. Meeting ID. Okay, who are there? Keshanaya Prabhu is here. Vasudev Krishna Prabhu. Vasudev Krishna Prabhu has replicated that. Two Vasudev Krishna. Three. Two. Karuna Murthy Prabhu is here. Amazing. Raghav Charan Prabhu and Keshav Kripa Prabhu, Rama Vallabh Prabhu, and Samarth Krishna Prabhu. Welcome all of you. Also.
Swam Prakash Prabhu also is there.
So you give this camera connection and just close it, switch it off. Otherwise echo is coming. But the sound will go from there. Sound will not go through my name. Sound is going through. Fine. So I can disconnect my sound, right? Because otherwise it will cause echo. I have switched off my. Anything need to be done? Disconnection from sound. Safe. It will not echo now. Echo नहीं आएगा ना? Okay. Okay, so we are all set now. So welcome all of you also for the Zoom class and non-Zoom class participant. Both. So just briefly revising the contents of the third canto. After that, we will go ahead with our discussion on 20th chapter. So chapter canto 3 talks of Sarga and Visarga. In second canto, chapter 8, Parikshit Maharaj had asked some question to Sukadeva Goswami. And Sukadeva Goswami decided to quote the conversation between Vidura and Maitreya for answering those questions. And before that, in the conversation between Sonakadi Rishi and Suta Goswami, there also, after hearing the second canto, which describes about the creation of the universe, and it's quite technical. So after that, Sonakadi Rishi, they inquired that we have heard that, but in previously you told us that Vidura had left his home. Vidura had left Hastinapur to go for a pilgrimage. So whenever there is any talk about a very great devotee, all his talks, all his travel is very exciting. Every action what he does, because he is imbued with love for Krishna, every action, every interaction becomes very meaningful. So sometimes we hear like on Vyas Puja day, so many devotees recall many interactions with the spiritual master. And they are not always just from the classes they heard. There are many like interaction where they went, was going and a crow came flying. Some of you heard that? The crow came flying and then, just this echo is coming. The crow came flying and dashed into that glass of the car and then fell because it just, the beak was bleeding. So the Maharaj immediately stopped the car and chanted Hare Krishna for that crow. So that goes to show their kindness, their compassion for all living entities. So like that, whenever we talk about any great devotee, we know that their every act, at every moment, is filled with devotion for Krishna. That is why not only their lectures are worth hearing or their kirtans are worth hearing, but even talk about them and what they talk to whom, that also becomes very interesting and soothing to hear. Recently, this Pranavanand Prabhu had come. Right? I was traveling, I couldn't hear much, but I heard that a lot of devotees were there. And so he will because his person is serving His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj. So he will tell all details of whom he met, what he did, what he told, how he told. So they become very sweet to hear. So similarly, Sonakadi Rishi, they are inquiring that what happened to Vidura after he left? Because whatever he did, whomsoever he must have met, that must be very nourishing for our Krishna consciousness. So that is why this part A of this third canto, the chapter number 1 to 4, is about Uddhava and Vidura Samvad. So the question was asked, where and when Vidura Maitreya Samvad happened. So then, that whole story comes, how Vidura leaves after being insulted by Duryodhana and how he goes to Prabhasa Kshetra where he meets Uddhava. And then he recalls, and Uddhava recalls all the pastimes of the Lord. He goes into Leela Smaranam. And when Vidura started asking him questions, then Uddhava says, no, now you should go to Maitreya Muni, because Maitreya Muni was also present when Lord gave the final instructions, so you should go to him. So then, in this second part, after that, Vidura travels from Prabhas Kshetra and he comes to meet Maitreya at Haridwar. So Haridwar, the place where Maitreya Muni was staying. And there, Vidura started inquiring from Maitreya Muni. And he directly did not inquire about the Lord's Leelas or things. First, he inquired about the Srishti Leela of the Lord. How does the Lord create different Purusha avatars, Virat Rupa, Leela avatar? So, the knowledge of the greatness of the Lord always precedes the understanding of the sweetness of the Lord. We can appreciate the sweetness of the Lord better when we have some idea about the greatness of the Lord. So that's why you'll find that even Parikshit Maharaj in second canto, third canto, later canto, till the ninth canto end, he's inquiring about many aspects, which includes about the creative potency of the Lord, about the creating this Srishti Leela of the Lord, how Lord does creation. It repeats. So it's there already in the second canto. Now third canto also it is there in this chapter number 5 and 6. And again it is coming. Now in chapter number 20, again that creation part will continue. Because if we understand the simple fact that the entire universe is created by the Lord and we are created by the Lord, it becomes actually easier to surrender to the Lord and serve Him. But when this mentality is there, I'm independent, the world is working on its own, then it becomes difficult to surrender. That is why modern times you'll find that they say that life has come on its own and universe has come on its own. These are the two basic fundamental, emphasis of the modern scientist. So once we cut the connection of God with creation and life, then, there's not much reason to believe in God and depend on Him and surrender to Him. But the Vedic literature, they emphasize that creation is done by God, life is created by God. So then we have an inherent connection. It's just about connecting back, that's all. So Vidurji inquires about incarnations and Virat Rupa, different planets, which is duly explained by Maitreya Muni. Very beautiful questions in that section. Especially, he's asking that how can Lord be connected with gunas and how is a pure soul engaged in nations? Soul is Satchidanand. It never gets mixed with anything material. It never gets mixed with these 8 material elements. So then how is it that it gets overpowered by the nations and who suffers? How does the jiva suffer? Jiva is such ananda. Suffering is not in its constitution itself. And how does the jiva suffer? So this question is a very interesting question and being answered very beautifully by Maitreya Muni. And Vedra inquires further about vibhutis, visargas, manus, which are being answered. And then the creation aspect is explained, how Lord Brahma starts. It comes from the very beginning, how the Mahatattva comes and then all the elements are created, right? And then all the sense organs are created, then sense objects are created, and then the sense devatas, they are created and how do they function. So all the 3 Vishnus and all the subsequent creation is explained. And in that order, it further comes, and Visarga comes when it talks about Brahmaji creating different kind of living entities, right? First he created the Kumaras, and they refused to go to Grasashram and help him in increasing the progeny. Then he becomes upset. Then Rudra comes, the 11 Rudras manifest. Then Lord Brahma pacifies them. And then he creates all the sages from different parts of his body. So like that, the secondary creation is being described. And then the third part of this, which is from 13 to 19, which I believe we covered last time, is about the pastimes of Lord Varaha. Recently only Varadwadashi also was there on 2nd of February. So after the appearance of Manu, when Swayambhu Manu appeared and he fully agreed and obeyed the order of Brahmaji to create progeny. So when he wanted to fulfill the order of Brahmaji, then he saw that the earth is not in its place. So earth was thrown into Garbhoda Kosha. So then the story of Varahadev comes up. So there is a mix. The Varadev appeared in both Manvantaras, first also, sixth also. And Maitreya Muni, while talking, he is giving a combined version of both the Sweta Varaha and Rakta Varaha incarnation of the Supreme. So that Kanai Krishna Prabhu explained. How many were there in the class? He gave on that. Okay. Others are not there. You can hear. Nice class. It's a great blessing on our community. Very nice class. So, so that is being explained. And then, you know, then Brahmaji started explaining about Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyaksha he explains why the earth was imbalanced and how it fell into the Garbhodak ocean. And then he explained about the appearance of Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. And before that he goes how the four Kumaras have gone to Vaikuntha, and then there was a chaos. There was a disagreement, dispute at the gate of Vaikuntha when they were not allowed. And then that's how they cursed Jay and Vijay. And Jay and Vijay became Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. And then how Hiranyaksha conquered over the entire world. He was challenging everyone around. And then how Lord appeared in Varahadev form and finally killed him. So in 19th chapter, Lord Varahadev kills Hiranyaksha by finally, after fighting a lot, after fighting with mace, after fighting with everything, finally he ended the pastime by one little slap. And then Hiranyaksha is liberated. So after that, now in this section from chapter 20 to 24, it will be discussed that further, Sonagadi Rishi will ask Suta Goswami that please continue further to describe what happened between Vidura and Maitreya. Continue that discussion. So that discussion will continue, and in chapter number 20, we will learn about the different kinds of creation by Lord Brahma. So different mentalities, different consciousness give rise to different kind of creation. So that we will learn. And after that, in chapter 21, there will be further inquiry about the dynasty of Swambhu Manu, because Swambhu Manu is the first monarch of the entire universe. So he had 2 sons and 3 daughters. And everything else in the entire Bhagavatam, all the lineages, all the dynasties are originating from Swambhu Manu, because the first one. So either 2 sons we hear about now. Now we are hearing about Prachetas and Daksha. So Daksha had concubines because Daksha had no son. So the lineage ended, just like for parent tell na brahmacharis, beta aapke baad parivar kaun chalayega, vansh kaun chalayega. So along with Daksha, that lineage of Privrat Maharaj get concluded. Similarly, Uttanpad Maharaj, no, with Prachetas, Prachin Varisha Pracheta, this is the lineage of Uttanpad Maharaj. After that, Privrat Maharaj came, and then Privrat Maharaj lineage is continued now like that. So there is a discussion about the dynasty of Swambhu Manu's sons and daughters. So this will be discussion about Devoti, how Mother Devoti gets married to Kardam Muni, and how they beget 9 daughters. And these 9 daughters actually get married to 9 sages, and through them the entire universe get pop. So that whole description is there, and there's a whole detailed description of how Kardam Muni lived his brahmachari life and how he lived his grahastha life, how he became Vanprastha, how he took sannyas. So in 5 days, we'll go through the journey of entire Varnashram. From brahmachari, grahastha, Vanprastha, sannyas, everything. Kardam Muni is a very good example of seeing all the 4 phases in life. And later on, Mother Devoti will inquire from Lord Kapila Dev, who is an incarnation of the Lord. And then the teachings of Lord Kapila will be the next section, which contains 8 chapters, chapter 25 to 33, and this will be discussed, I believe, in 2 further units. So this is the summary for the discussion which we'll have 20 to 24. And now coming to our So that pastime of Varadev is being concluded, and now Shaunak Rishi is saying. So let's recite together to save time. Shaunaka uvacha mahim pratishtam adyasya saute swayambhuvo manu kani anvatishta dvarani margaya varjanmana. So one by one you can take chance to read the translations. And purport some point I will read as per what I highlighted.
Sri Saunaka inquired, O Sutta Goswami, after the earth was again situated in its orbit, what did Swayambhumanu do to show the path of liberation to persons who were to take birth later on?
Yeah. So Saunak is inquiring because uh, when the earlier conversation was going on, the entire Varahadev section, Hiranyak section came when Swayambhu Manu appeared from Brahmaji along with Satrupa and he wanted to obey the order, but then earth was not to be found. So because earth was there in the Garbhodak ocean, that's why the whole pastime happened. Now that pastime is concluded, so Saunak is again reminding, now earth came back to the orbit, then what did Swayambhu Manu further did? So here in this purport, Srila Prabhupada says about the Manus, he says there are 14 Manus in one day of Lord Brahma, and there are 71 or 72 Manvantars, for which one Manvantar has 71 or 72 Divya Yugas. One Divya Yuga is one Satyuga, Treta, Dwapar and Kalyuga, which is combinedly of 43 lakh 20,000 years into 72. That is the region of 1 month. He gives that calculation. And he says, it is understood here that Manu creates scriptural regulations for the salvation of the conditioned souls who come to the material world for enjoyment. The Lord is so kind that any soul who wants to enjoy in this material world is given full facility for enjoyment, and at the same time, he has shown the path of salvation. So Swayambhu Manu, like the other bona fide agents of the Lord, has the same purpose as the Lord, that he creates facility for the enjoyment of conditioned souls in a regulated way, and at the same time also imparts them instruction, guidance, makes laws by which they can get elevated. So the Supreme Lord or a representative has to, fulfill his duty by doing three things for his dependents. Like Rishabdev Maharaj says, no, one should not become a king, one should not become a father, mother, husband. One cannot deliver his dependent. So what does it mean to deliver the dependent? One has to first of all create a facility for educating them, right? For giving them proper knowledge. And that knowledge is coming from scriptures. So there has to be a facility by which the scriptural knowledge can be disseminated. It can be taught to people. So that is first duty, to make a system by which the scriptural knowledge can be taught. And second thing is, after the knowledge is taught, one has to ensure that people are properly engaged. That is why one of the duties of the king is to oversee that Varnashram Dharma is being followed. What is Varnashram Dharma? It is people engaging in the occupation as per their natural skill and natural talent. So engagement, overseeing engagement is also the duty of a king. We know about Lord Ram, how when he saw a Shudra performing tapasya, he went and cut his head. So sometimes people make it controversial, but it is like, somebody is a plumber and he wears the coat of a doctor and starts giving medicine to others, then what will one do? Just because we wear the coat, can we be accepted as a doctor? No, you're not qualified for that practice. So maintaining Varnashram Dharma, giving proper engagement, that was the duty. And then finally, one has to set the proper example, because condition soul scripture में ऐसा हुआ, भगवान ने ऐसा किया, वो सब ठीक है, आपने क्या की? We are seeing you. So to set the right example. And later on in the next chapter, we'll discuss how Swayambhu Manu personally set the example of being fully devoted to the Lord, although being in the midst of ruling over the entire universe. So he has to make facility for education, he has to create engagement and oversee the engagement, and he has to set the right example. These three E's that are the duty of any leader. So similarly here, Swayambhu Manu being a representative of the Supreme Lord, it is being mentioned that he arranged for that facility, that people gain knowledge, people follow Varnashram Dharma. And that is how Sonagadi Rishi is asking, what did Swayambhu Manu do after the reinstatement of the earth in its orbital situation? Okay, text. Chatta Mahabhagavata Krishnasya Kantika Suhrata Yastyajagrajam Krishne Sapatyam Agavaniti.
Sonaka Rishi inquired about Vidura, who was a great devotee and friend of Lord Krishna, and who gave up the company of his elder brother because the latter, along with his sons, played tricks against the desire of the Lord.
Yeah. So it's very similar. You remember some words? Great devotee and friend of Lord Krishna. Whose qualification was that? Arjuna's qualification. Bhakto sime sakha cheti. Rahasyam hi etad uttama. So one can understand the secrets about Krishna only when one has this kind of disposition of being friend and being devoted to the Lord. So he inquired about Vidura, who had left the company of Dhritarashtra. Although he tried to preach to Dhritarashtra, but then the situation became totally, unfavorable. Then he left that place. He returned back again. Vidura again returned back to deliver Dhritarashtra because just like the conditioned soul is determined to remain in the material world, trying to enjoy the senses, the spiritualists, the devotees of the Lord are also very determined कि इसको उद्धार करके रहेंगे. Whatever will happen is, we will somehow or other deliver it. So they are also very determined because, so they are determined to stay back and they are determined to deliver back. Just like Prahlad Maharaj saying, I will stay in this material world till the time there are fools who think that they can enjoy in this material world. That is sloka. What is that sloka where he says that? I'm forgetting that. He says, no, Maya Vimunan, or those people who are attracted by the material energy of the Lord. So he says, I'm determined to stay till the time there is anyone who is determined to enjoy the material world. I am also determined to deliver him. But when the situation was unfavorable, then he left from that palace and again came back to deliver the Dhritarashtra. So Vidura's qualification was that he was not only friend, but also a great devotee of the Lord. So Krishna tried to stop the war and mitigate the misunderstanding, but they refused to accept it. So he left the palace. Prabhupada writes, as a devotee, Vidura showed by example that anywhere that Krishna is not honored is a place unfit for human inhabitation. A devotee may be tolerant regarding his own interest, but he should not be tolerant when there is misbehavior toward the Lord or the Lord's devotee. So this is very important that, now we are brahmacharis, so at our home also usually there is favorable atmosphere. But if we go to any place where the Lord is not respected, either is compared with demigods or is not given proper respect, people mistreat him, then we should not stay at that place. It is a place unfit for human habitation where Krishna is not honored. And finally, says the Agavan word indicates that Dhritarashtra's sons Kauravas, they lost the war because of their being sinful. And what was their sin? Sin means to disobey the order of the Lord. And here they had a direct order of the Lord. Lord is requesting them to give 5 villages, but they're directly disobeying. So the basic root or basic definition of sin is disobedience to the will of the Lord is called sin. And that will of the Lord is expressed through scripture. But here in this case, the Lord's will was directly also expressed to them. But still they did not pay attention to that, and that's why they became agavan, they became sinful. Text 3. Dvaipayanad anvaro mahitasya dehajah sarvatmanashritah krishnam tatparangchapi anubhrataha.
Vidura was born from the body of Vedvas and was not less than he. Thus he accepted the lotus feet of Krishna wholeheartedly and was attached to his devotees.
Oh, screen sharing is paused actually. I have to share it again. I thought the same thing is going on there. Of course, they have their own. So even in English, there is a saying. They say, like father, like son. So Vidura was born from the body of Vedavyas, and so he was also like Vedavyas. And Vedavyas is also an incarnation of the Lord, empowered incarnation, literary incarnation. And Vidura, in his original form, is Yamaraj, who is also one of the 12 Mahajans. So that is why he accepted the lotus feet of Krishna wholeheartedly and was attached to his devotees. So Prabhupada writes that he was born of his Sudra mother, but his seminal father was Vyasdev. And you know that story, how Vyasdev was called by Satyavati. Because Satyavati was the mother of Vyasdev. Vyasdev's father was Parashar. So Parashar Muni got Vedvyas through Satyavati, even before Satyavati was married to Shantanu Maharaj. After she got married to Shantanu Maharaj, as per the vow, Devvrat, who was already there, born from Mother Ganges, then he took a vow that he would never get married. So then Satyavati gave birth to two sons, Chitrangad, Chitravir, and Vichitravir. I'm forgetting the name, Mahabharata, right long back. And then Devvrat went and he got three princes to get married to these two. These two is like stepbrothers. And Amba, Ambika, and Ambala. Yeah. So one of them was already uh, kind of married or engaged to another king. So he left that, and the other two got married. But then after they got married, these both, the Vichitravir and Chitrangad, they both died. So there was no one in the dynasty to continue the dynasty. So Satyavati requested Devvrat or Bhishma that now I only told, and for my pleasure only you took the vow. So now I am only telling you to give up the vow. It's very lucrative, no? But but Bhishma told no. Once I've taken the vow, there's no more going back. Because his vow was not for just for Satyavati's pleasure or for Maharaj Shantanu's pleasure. He being a Mahajan, a great devotee, for them every act is because Lord is pleased by that. They are not, it may apparently look like that he did it for Shantanu Maharaj and Satyavati. And even the Karamkandi people, even Mahabharata will talk about that like that. But the perspective of Srimad Bhagavatam is that every Mahajan acts only for the pleasure of Lord. Otherwise, what is the, here Arjuna is being told by Krishna in battlefield, kill your, relatives and friends. Correct? So material relationships are not being valued by the Lord. So it is not that, Bhishma Pitama acted out of bodily connections and material obligation. He knew that, okay, this is the situation. Apparently, it looks like that my father want to get married and I had to take this vow. But he took that vow for the pleasure of Lord, not for the pleasure of Satyavati or Shantanu. That's why he did not give it up when even when Satyavati's mother told, you took for me pleasure only. Now I'm telling I will be pleased by you're breaking the vow, you break. No. I took the vow for pleasing the Supreme Lord, he didn't break the vow. So then, Satyavati, knowing that Vedvyas is her previous son, and that time, that culture of getting a child born from, that, what do you call, Devar or that other brother that was there. So she called, but Vedvyas was with matted hair, all black. I mean, he was a sage. He came on the order, and then when he united with Amba, then Pandu was born because she became pale, and Ambika, she closed the eyes, so the blind son Dhritarashtra was born. And at first, they arranged for a maidservant for Vedvyas to unite, and Vedvyas was in trance, he didn't know what is happening. So then Vidura was born from that. So three sons, they are all sons of Vedvyas only. But so much of contrast is there. Pandu Maharaj was a very chivalrous Kshatriya. Vidura also was a Kshatriya. He was, because he was born of a Shudra mother, he was considered low in his status, but Dhritarashtra considered him as his counselor, as his guide. And Dhritarashtra was also born. So all three have Vedvyas only as father. So in the case of Vidura, we can call like father, like son. He was a great devotee of the Lord. But in the case of Dhritarashtra, it doesn't apply. Like father, unlike son, like that. so Vidura was also a great personality because he was son of Vedya. So this is something from Mahabharata. Okay, text 4. Kimanva prakshanam matreyam viraja stirtha sevaya pagamya kusha vartam asinam tattuvittamam.
Vidura was purified of all passion by wandering in sacred places, and at last he reached Haridwar, where he met the great sage who knew the science of spiritual life, and he inquired from him. Sanaka Rishi therefore asked, what more did Vidura inquire from Maitreya?
Yeah, so he's asking something already being told, but then he said, what was the further thing? What further continued this? So Srila Prabhupada writes a considerable purport to this, in which he highlights that Virajas the Sevaya refers to Vidura, who was completely cleansed of contamination by traveling to places of pilgrimage. So after leaving his home, which was filled with politics and diplomacy, Vidura wanted to purify himself by traveling to all the sacred places, which are so situated that anyone who goes there automatically becomes purified. For Vidura, when Vidura comes back, Yudhishthira Maharaj uses the word Tirthi Kurvanti Tirthani. He did not consider that Vidura got purified by going to the places. He considered that by traveling of Vidura, the holy places became totally purified, because all the people, they accumulate their sins there. When the holy people, saintly people go there and chant the holy names there, hear Krishna Katha, then the places become purified. That is the potency of the devotees of the Lord. But here it mentioned that Vidura, in his own humility, he felt, I have been involved in politics and diplomacy, now I want to give it up all. And what happens in politics and diplomacy? Sam, Dam, Dandabhed. Like Hiranyakashipu were trying to teach Prahlad Maharaj who is friend, who is enemy, how to exploit the friend, how to kill the enemies. So that is all there, a part of politics and diplomacy. Who is attacking, how to take advantage of his weakness. So because of being involved in that atmosphere, then Vidura thought, let me just go out and let me get purified. That was his humility. He was always pure. But like many great sages, they also go on Kartik, they go to the Vrindavan or Mayapur. So they are already pure. They are chanting the Lord's holy name, they're serving the Lord. But still, they feel that let's go there and be purified with that. So Prabhupada says that anyone who goes to these holy places become purified, especially in Vrindavan. And even if a person is sinful, by once coming in the contact of his spiritual life and atmosphere of spiritual life, automatically chant the name of Radha and Krishna. That we have actually seen and experienced. It's true actually. Many times you'll find that boys, you take some boys who are lukewarm and all, sometimes they go to Holy Dham and they become very deeply inspired. And that is why most of you are in youth preaching. So you're not taking yatras because that helps, right? That helps them to see that and be inspired. And there is a special potency of the Dham, which makes them more convinced and determined to practice spiritual life as compared to whatever else we are able to do other places. So that's why the Holy Dham, pilgrimage to Holy Dham is recommended as one of the 5 most potent forms. So after retiring from active life and accepting Vanprastha, one should travel everywhere to these places, purify himself. Vidura completely discharged his duty, and then he reached Kushavrita or Haridwar. Now Prabhupada comes to second point, that yes, going to holy places is purifying, and one gets natural boost to advance in Krishna consciousness. But another significant point is that one must go to the sacred places not only to take bath, because otherwise one becomes Sayeva Gokhara, just by taking bath.
Roji, we are not able to hear.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, there is no sound.
So somebody called? किसने कॉल किया?
I have messaged him on chat also and text messages.
मैसेज किया मैसेज किया ब्रो मैसेज nobody sees there because they'll be hearing
Hare Krishna. Is the sound coming now?
yes bro.
Yes, bro. Okay, fine. Thank you. So here purpose is that going to holy place is purifying at one level. But then next level is that not only just one goes to holy place, one searches out a person from home one hears about the Leela Katha of the Lord. Otherwise, as Narottam Thakur said, that he has forbidden us to go to such places of pilgrimage because in this age, the times have so changed. A sincere person may have a different impression on seeing the behavior of the present residents of the pilgrimage site. So he has recommended that instead of taking the trouble to travel to such places, one should concentrate his mind on Govinda. That will help. Of course, concentrate one's mind on Govinda in any place is a path meant for those who are the most spiritually advanced, and not for ordinary people. So, two people are being taught. Ordinary people going to Dham will help them, then they should search out a person to hear, and that is beneficial. If they can't search out the right person, then they will even get affected in a negative way. They will pick up wrong practices. So, and for advanced people, wherever they are, they can take shelter of the Lord by chanting the holy names, and that is beneficial for them. So, ordinary people and advanced devotee both are being taught. And then further it says that one should find a person who knows the science of good or God or Tattvavid. Tattvavid means one who knows absolute truth. And then it further says one has to be free from all. There are many pseudo-transcendentalists even in places of pilgrimage. Such men are always present, and one has to be intelligent enough to find the actual person to be consulted. Then one's attempt to progress by traveling to different holy places will be successful. So, how does one find such a person? One can find such a person by the help of Krishna mercy. Krishna helps the sincere person, Guru Krishna Prasad, by the mercy of the spiritual master and Krishna Varane in the path of salvation. When one sincerely searches for the spiritual salvation, then Krishna will give him intelligence to find a suitable spiritual master. So, for us, how does it apply? That we should always go only when there is a very bona fide service for us to go in Dham. And we should seek blessings and prayers so that we are able to go to Dham and able to take advantage of the Dham in the right spirit. Otherwise, many ISKCON devotees have gone to different holy Dhams, especially Vrindavan, and have got totally distracted at everything. So one has to be very careful that one seeks blessings, and only when there is a bona fide service and one is blessed, then only one goes. So even when we take devotees for yatras or we go for any service. You should be very, very careful. Where Prabhupada is saying in those days, pseudo-transcendental are also there in the holy places. Prabhupada gives a famous example for cheater and cheated. That many people go to Varanasi so that they can get their daughter married to some sage, so that they can get a good grandson. A good grandson. And many pseudo cheaters, who are doing just like that, they also become Babaji in that Varanasi. So it's the world of cheaters and cheated. So they want to be cheap, they want to have Babaji to have a good progeny, and then people also take the role of Babaji for that. So that is should not be the case. One should be very careful for what purpose one is doing. One should seek the blessings. One should be very careful that one stays for a short period of time. This is instructed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Telangana Pandit. One should not go to Gurugram for long period of time. Go only for 3 days. While there, one should also be in the care and protection of a senior Vaishnava. For us, it means that we be there in the Ishwan temple and we attend the entire program. Going to Dham is not a concession for our routine program, morning program, and other things. So we be there and we do our service and then come back. And we don't, become what you call that, that nectar shopping. Because in Dham you get so much variety. So many Babajis who speak. These days in Vrindavan, many Babajis are now online also. They're very popular. And they glorify ISKCON also. So then ISKCON people become more interested. Or respected. On a proper so then they are being circulated. So their circulation happens when they glorify ISKCON. But once you circulate on YouTube, then what happens? Many other files come. Radha Mahima, and then Radha Saranaguri कैसे प्राप्त करें, भगवान के लिए कैसे रोए, तो लोग लगता है ISKCON में तो बोलते हैं बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन करो, इधर थोड़ा बोल रहे हैं कैसे रोना है, राधा कृपा कैसे प्राप्त करना है. So it starts with that, some connecting link, and then people just totally get absorbed, and then they go in class for 2 months, become Bhagavati, stay in that ashram, this ashram, and hear from them. So one has to be very careful as per one's adhikar, as per one's empowerment one should choose. And any moment, anybody can get distracted. Mental nature is very dangerous, very sensitive, and needs to be at guard all the time. Okay, so text. Tayo sambandhato sutta pravartahi amanakatha apo gangai vanagni harer padam vilashraya.
Saunaka inquired about the conversation between Vidura and Maitreya. There must have been many narration of the spotless pastimes of the Lord. The hearing of such a narration is exactly like bathing in the water of river Ganges, for it can free one from all sinful reactions.
So this comparison is also given by Srila Shankaracharya in Gita Mahatmya, where he compares that the Ganges is emanating from the lotus feet of the Lord, and that is purifying all the 3 worlds. So if that Ganges can purify all the 3 worlds and purify a person of all the sinful deeds, and what to say of this Ganges or this Harikathamritam or nectar which is emanating from the lotus lips of the Lord. And Prabhupada writes that comparatively the face is given more importance than the feet. Both are absolute, but it's comparative. So bathing in Ganges can purify one of the sins, but bathing in Ganges cannot purify one of the sinful proclivities, sinful desires. But by hearing Krishna Katha, one becomes free from sinful desires. And for hearing Krishna Katha, we need a devotee, we need a Hari Bhakta. And that is why it is said by Sri Vaibhav that Ganga Parash Maile, Paschatya Pavan, Darshana Pavitra Karo Ayatmana. So the Vaishnava is considered more powerful. So here also Prabhupada was in similar line. He says, water the Ganges purified because it is coming from the lotus feet of the Lord. Bhagavad Gita, as good as the water of the Ganges, it is spoken from the mouth of the Lord. The Lord is absolute, there is no difference between his words, his perspiration, and all his pastime. Bhagavad Gita is words, perspiration is Ganges, and pastimes is Srimad Bhagavatam. So they are all on the equal platform at absolute level, and taking shelter of any one of them is equal. So, Sri Goswami has enunciated that anything in relationship with Krishna is on the transcendental platform, we can go there. all our activities in relationship with Krishna, then we do not stand on the material platform, but always on the spiritual platform. So it talks about Yukta Vairagya, but as we were hearing today morning, that in the name of Yukta Vairagya, we should not get into the zone of over excessive attachment, calling it Yukta Vairagya. It's a very thin line. But who draws that line? That line is drawn by the spiritual master. That means Yukta Vairagya is not independent on the applied process. Whether something is Yukta Vairagya or Vairagya or Yukta, that decision is not taken by the person. That is to be taken by the person who is guiding him. He has to ask him, can I turbo a flight? Can I keep an iPhone? Can I keep a iPad? So all these things, when somebody says, I'm going to Seva Gati, Seva Gati, so whatever is to be done, we can't take it on. We don't know whether we are asking it for our comfort or whether it is really the need for service. So somebody has to define it for us. Somebody has to give us permission. So one should not draw the line of Victoria oneself. One should ask, and one should always oblige by whatever standards are set. And if there is any exception required, then one should talk it. One should communicate and have a discussion why, what exception required. Otherwise, one goes by that. That is Victoria. Right? So, text 6. Kana kirtaya bhadram te kirtaya matra karmana Sagyo konu satyeta hari lila taptivam.
All good fortune to you. Please narrate the activities of the Lord, which are all magnanimous and worth glorifying. What sort of devotee can be satiated by hearing the lecture pastors?
So this is the quality of really advanced. If you want to see how much we are advancing or how much you are advanced, how much anyone is advanced, we should not use for judging others, but in our own case, two things one should see. One is how much taste have I acquired for hearing Krishna? How much taste have I acquired for chanting the holy name? And how much distance I have developed for talking about others in a negative way in their absence, or is somebody criticizing them or talking them. These are solid tests. The test is not in the color of the dress, the test is not in the responsibility level one may take, the test is not in that, some kind of external things which you may achieve or which you may impress. The real test is internal. If somebody is really advancing, he gets stamina for hearing and chanting. He can chant the holy name 64 rounds, he can chant and feel happy about it, not about it. And he can hear Krishna. He can sit down and hear Krishna for several hours, just relishing the passions of the Lord. And he developed distaste, he develops a dislike. So whenever it comes about, oh, that happened, do you know what happened in that devotee, what did he say? He just, if it is, if there is no service in that regard, just go ahead, just doesn't matter to me. Too small to get into all this. I know there are right people dealing with it, and there are right people who can help you out in this. So please take help from them. If he has some service in that regard, he will hear and try to serve, because depending on our role and position in that context, we will have some role. But otherwise, he just no interest in what anyone else is doing. He's only interested in seeing that he is positively engaged in hearing and chanting the Guru. So Srila Prabhupada writes that those who are actually on the transcendental platform are never satiated by hearing the continuous narration of the pastimes of the Lord. Actually on the transcendental platform. So that means that somebody who gets satiated by hearing the continuous narration is not actually on the transcendental platform. Or, in other words, those who are not actually in the transcendental platform will feel satiated by hearing the narration of the pastimes of the Lord. It's not usually. So we may have responsibilities. In fact, sometimes there may be responsibilities that even during the class we might have to do something. Maybe cooking, backup, or serving, or some responsibility might come. So it is not about the act of hearing in a gross way, it is about the eagerness to hear. Radhashankar gives an example that he was going to Mumbai. Here the class by the servants. The train stopped. Train stopped around 7 o'clock and somebody the other take that train to train and all. there next to him. When another devotee is so restless, he chanted, I'm sure आगे बढ़ के and then he got down the tree. क्या हो रहा है? Just get down. क्या है? फिर रुका हुआ. So finally, that they moved and all. By the time they realized, "You are Prabhupada." He started crying. Darshan was telling that actually he heard a Revatipati more than somebody who might be sitting in the class and dozing and singing Kal Khatam Ho Gaya. It's not just about the act of hearing, it's about the eagerness by which one. So in Krishna consciousness, things are subtle. The action is important, but the intention is more important. The thought behind the action is more important. So this is the test for the transcendental platform. Somebody on the transcendental platform, he is not satiated by it. We often hear about this generous group coming. They come and sit in the Bengali class also. Because it's just Christianity is going on. The soul understands all the languages. The soul understands. So similarly, whether one is able to hear or not, that's one thing because of whatever responsibilities others have. Service is one reason. But eagerness to hear, that is the test. And then eagerness should be given way also. Not that I'm very eager to hear, but I never hear. So, at times there will be other eagerness to hear is there. We are longing to hear, we may hear the recording later, we hear, we ask the what happened there, what was the so that eagerness to hear is a sign of transcendental plane and plane. Shonagari is here, they are very eager to hear. And this is the last verse which he is saying. So look at this. Okay, read the translation.
On being asked to speak by the great sages of Navisharanya, the son of Roma Goswami, whose mind was absorbed in translated personal to God, said, "Please hear what I shall not speak."
Yeah. So Sudha Goswami's mind was absorbed in the translated past time. So then he started answering, and now this Sudha was like 8 over, and he will quote about how Vidura has to make the that is somewhat. Read it.
Sudha Goswami continued. Vidura, the descendant of Bhagavatam, was delighted to hear the story of the Lord. Vidura, the descendant of Bhagavatam, was delighted to hear the story of the Lord.
Yeah, oh,
Vidura, the descendant of Bhagavatam, was delighted to hear the story of the Lord, who, having achieved by his own divine potency in the form of the God, had enacted the sport of lifting the earth from the bottom of the ocean, and in this way taking the demon Hiranyam. Buddha then spoke to the sage as follows.
so now it's like inquiring about that. And once you capture the mood of Prabhupada, and so reading the words also you can get an idea that what word Prabhupada will take and happen. So here you see this word. Hare Dhrita Krodha Tanu Swamaya. So that is the word Prabhupada. Swamaya. That means the Lord takes different forms, not by the dictation of mental nature, but by his own internal force. Sambhavami Atma Maya. Otherwise, it says that Bhagavad also. Sambhavami you get. I appear in every millennium by my choice, not forced by the mental nature. That is the word Prabhupada tells that Mayavadis say that the Lord is also posed like one of the divas and takes some form. But actually, these are all eternal forms. And Lord takes these forms by his own sweet will for the purpose of performing pastimes, which will be discussed among his devotees, not for any purpose. So that is the word where Prabhupada emphasizes. Maya, the idea that the living entity is the supreme authority, but has become covered by Maya, is invalid because Maya cannot be so great that it can cover the supreme. So, now Vidura Vaja. Prajapati Patishtha Prajasarge Prajapati Himarabha Brahman Prabhu Vyakta Madhavit.
Since you know of matters inconceivable to us, tell me of what it is. What did Brahma do to create everything after more than of living?
So here in this purport, Prabhupada focuses on the word Avyakta Marg Vid. So Avyakta means it is not Vyakta, it is not explained, it is not directly perceived. Marg means that path. One knows that which is beyond our perception. So that is to be known only by Shabda Pramana. That means it comes in the line of Adhyana, it comes in the line of Parampara. So to know matters beyond our perception, one has to learn from a superior authority in the line of Adhyana. Just to know, and Prabhupada is the example, just to know who is our father is beyond our perception. So mother becomes the authority. Similarly, we have to understand everything beyond our perception from the authority who actually knows. And then it also Brahman as the anybody in the line is also object, the mark of the personality who knows that which is beyond ordinary perception. So it's good to understand that our path is not the path of what are the three pramanas? Pratyaksha, Anuman, and Shabda. So we work by what? Primarily with Shabda Prabhu. Pratyaksha and Anuman can be tentatively wrong. So in our dealings, if we apply that principle of Shabda Prabhu, that means we don't judge a person, we don't speculate about a person, why he did what he did. Either we ask him directly or either we ask somebody, superior. Somebody did not come on morning program. Then better we ask him, what happened, that is okay. Or we ask the morning program in charge somebody why he did not. But if we start speculating, I see that's what they need. Then we go unnecessarily speculate. That's not our path. The path is Shabda. For everything we say, we have to have a proof, we have to have a quotation. So oftentimes, as we spend time in Krishna Vaishnavas, we start feeling that our perception Anuman has become Shabda. What I see and what I speculate is very perfect. So that is not the case. It's always better to confirm anything. Why the rule is changed, why Prashadam line from here to there, why this timing is changed, why this, that. Whatever question comes, better to ask a person who knows about it. Just a discussion among ourselves in the whole dormitory, in the whole group. Together they cannot sort it out. They have to ask somebody who put the notice. Right? So this kind of speculation and talking to people who are not in the authority to answer or kind of clarify the thing is present. Unnecessary talk is not required. So we should be very careful to go to a person who knows and then okay. Next time. Mike, you know, online leadership.
Vidura inquired, how did the Prajapatis, such progenitors of living entities as Marichi and Swayambhu Manu, create according to the instruction of Brahma, and how did they evolve this manifested universe?
So, Vidura is inquiring for read this also.
Did they evolve the creation in conjunction with their respective wives? Did they remain independent in their action, or did they all jointly produce it?
Yeah. So he's asking details. How did the Prajapatis who were instructed by Brahmaji, how did they create everything in the manifested universe with their wives or whatever? So, now, Maitreya, watch. So let's recite this. Devena Durvitarkena Parena Vishena Jata Soba Akvato Mahan Kalsi Duratva.
When the equilibrium of the combination of the three modes of nature were agitated by the unseen activity of the living entity, by Mahavishnu and by the force of time, the total material elements were produced.
So now the Sarga and Visarga point is again repeated because it was told in 5th chapter. After that, Vara Katha came. So matrimony also kind of revised. Just like we revised the third and like okay, एक महीना हो गया. एक महीने के बाद class हो रहा है. So let's recite पहला Uddhava and Vidura Samvada and Maitreya Vidura Samvada. then Varadev first time, and then now we are here. Similarly, now although the Sarga has been explained earlier, how the material elements are created, material senses are created, material sense objects are created. But again, it is summarized and repeated in brief. So just make the continuity. And after that, then the further, creation of all the different kind of living entities that will be discussed. How Brahma created all of them. So here, Prabhupada writes in the purport that the cause of the material creation is described very lucidly. The first cause is Deva. Now, Deva is usually we refer to Deva as Lord's will, Lord's desire. But here Prabhupada refers to Deva as the destiny of the conditioned soul. The material creation exists for the conditioned soul who wanted to become a false lord of sense enjoyment or sense enjoyment. So, very historical thing. The entire material creation is standing on the foundation, the basis of the living entity, minute free will, minute independence to try to enjoy separately from the Lord. So, we say Karana Lakshay Vishnu. Now, Karana Lakshay Vishnu is the Karana for the entire material creation, right? From him comes all these elements and then they form. What is the Karana for Karana Lakshay Vishnu? Karana Lakshay Vishnu is very huge. When Krishna goes to see him, in Krishna will be found the chapter where the sons of the Brahmana were stolen, and then Krishna and both go to it. But there you can see how huge it is. But that huge Karana Lakshay Vishnu, from whom the universes are coming like bubbles. We can imagine the universe size, and if the universe is a bubble, what is the size of Maharaj? But that Karana for that Karana Lakshay Vishnu is the living entity is minute independence. 1/10,000 the tip of his size. उसका minute independence, उसका full independence, उसका minute independence के कारण महाविष्णु भी लगा. So this is the material creation exists for conditioned soul. In 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about a reflection of a tree. Right? And the first verse Prabhupada talks that if there has to be something perverted reflection, pervertedly reflected, it needs some medium. It needs like water where it gets pervertedly reflected, like a lake or something. If the lake is not there, then the original thing only will be there. The perverted thing will not be experienced or observed. You get it? To get a perverted reflection, we need some medium, like you see the mirror or there's a body of water where there's a reflection. So the tree is being shown inverted, upside down, that tree of material creation. So it is seen upside down. So what is the water with the reflection? You know what is the water? Desire of the living. So desire of the living entity is that water, is the entire spiritual world get perverted. So it's all about desire. And other processes, karma, jnana, and ashtanga yoga, they do not deal with the desire of the living. Only the path of Bhakti Yoga, it deals with the core, the desire of the living entity. That is why it says that Vasana Vasi Dasana Wisdom. For trying to be the master, one has to come to the level of trying to become the servant. Change of desires. That is the process. Process of Bhakti is to change our desires. Internally. What do we aspire for? What are our aspirations? That is how we should see how we are growing. When we came, what are our aspirations? Now when we are practicing, what is our aspiration? Is our aspiration becoming that, Gopi Varsal Das? Is our aspiration becoming, or it has got changed and what we're aspiring for outside? Outside we wanted to be a business tycoon, outside we wanted to be a champion and, World Olympics. Now here we have come, so here also we want to be, we have to establish our flag. We have to be established or impressive. So one has to see what is my aspiration. One can only say individually, difficult for others to point. So Bhakti implies changing desire. So one cannot trace out the history when the conditioned soul first desired Lord and truth. Then Hanad is Bahin. So Prabhu said there's a nice verse which says the sum and substance of the conditioned soul sense enjoyment is that as soon as forget his family duty to render service to the Lord, creates an atmosphere of sense enjoyment, which is called Maya, that is the cause of material creation. What is that verse? Nikatastha Maya Dhara is written. Krishna only said in Nikatastha Maya Dhara. That is the word. Another word is Dur with Tarkena. Dur with Tarkena, very difficult to understand through Tarka. Dur with Tarkena. Without with Tarka, one cannot understand how the conditions will become desirable for sense enjoyment. But the cause is there. Mental nature is an atmosphere meant only for the sense enjoyment of the conditioned souls, and it is created by the Supreme Lord. So, one should not be surprised when people engage in sense gratification in the mental world. That's how it is created. Enlightenment is challenging. Sense gratification also natural. So, dur with Tarkena, when people ask, "Kaisa hum log udhar the, spiritual world में थे, सब अच्छा था, why and when and how?" That's why we are here. Proof is that we are here. That means we had the desire to enjoy suffering. And then there are three Vishnus which are mentioned. First, can to discuss in the morning. And then how the Lord works through the energy that is being explained. Okay, read the translation.
And he felt that the destiny of the giver, the powerful, which is of three kinds, evolved from the one in which the element of rajas predominates. From the ego, itself evolved many groups of five principles.
You know how the Prakriti, Pradhan, and Mahatattva works illustrated in the open book for you. There is everything balanced, and the glance of the Lord of Jiva enters and begins balance, and this starts, patience started coming. So there is Prakriti, there is Pradhan, there is Mahatattva. So when the element of Rajas predominates, then what happens? That creation starts happening. And Mahatattva is influenced by the element of Rajas. And what is the creation which happens? The groups of five principles. So first group is five principles is the element. That means Bhumi Rapondalo Vaibhav. These five elements come in first. Second group of five is called Tanmatras. That is the Tanmatras means the senses. Subtle element, sound, touch, form, taste, and third is five sense organs they come. And fourth is five working senses they come. And some say the fifth group is the five deities, the presiding deities who control it. So this is all being discussed here. Separately, in order to produce the material universe, they combined with the help of the energy of the Supreme God and were able to produce a shining act. So they all came from Mahatattva, everything is together and bound like a shining act. They formed the Brahmanda. Brahmanda was formed, but no activity was going on there. Right? So just like when the soul leaves the body becomes inert. Body cannot do anything, although everything apparently there. Only when the soul enters the body, then only the eyes start seeing, ears start hearing. So eyes, ears, all are there. Nothing moves. So similarly, the Brahmanda is there, but who is the soul of the Brahmanda? Which Vishnu? Huh? Soul of the Brahmanda. Where was it there? Soul of matter creation is Mahavishnu. Right? And soul in everyone's heart. Paramatma in everyone's heart is through the creation. So everything combined together, but nothing moved. That egg was lying like that for 1,000 years. The shining egg was lying on the water of the causal ocean. All these things are there. Five sense organs are there. Five elements are there, but nothing is moving. Then the Lord entered as Garbhoda creation. So the eggs are floating on the causal ocean. The cars are the Lord. And when the Lord entered, then what happened? From the navel of the Lord, he produces lotus flower contained like 1,000 blazing suns. Very fertile. And this lotus flower is the reservoir of all conditioned souls. And the first living entity who came out on the top of the lotus flower was the omnipotent sun. That we have learned previously also. And Prabhupada says that the lotus is rested in the refulgent as the clay of 1,000 suns. This indicates the living entities that part and parcel of the Supreme Lord are also the same qualities, and the Lord also differs in bodily cleanliness. Brahmajyoti. So Lord and Brahmajyoti and the individual soul also have their Jiva Jyoti. The Brahma Jyoti and the Jiva, the living entity, also has a Jyoti, it's also effulgent. We hear in the case of Agasur, how when Agasur was killed, the soul in the form of a very bright sparkling light is stayed outside. And Krishna came there. Similarly for Shishupal also. One body, the shining spark kind of thing came. So it's not visible. Then it entered the body. So then it says the description of the Vaikuntha as created is confirmed here. There is no hint of sunshine, moonshine, electricity, or fire. And when that supreme person, God and lying on the Garbhoda question entered the heart of Brahma, Brahma brought his intelligence to bear, and with that intelligence he invoked, he began to create the universe as it was before. So Karadaksha used to lie in the causal ocean. Many universes come out of his breathing. Then he enters into each universe with Garbhodaksha and fills up half with his own prosperity. Other half is vacant, and that vacant region is called outer space. And then the lotus comes out of Brahmaji's form, and then Brahmaji, Brahmaji creates the 14 planetary system in that lotus step, and then further things will be described in the fifth canto. So how Brahmaji create? Brahmaji create by Tene Hridaya Adi Kavaye Mayantiyasu. Tene Hridaya Adi Kavaye. That he enters the heart of God. That is, as Paramatma, he gives the direction. He gives the dictation how the creation should be done. And Brahmaji is then able to follow. So Lord gives one remembrance intelligence to act according to the desire, having within the This intelligence they invoke according to one's own capacity or value. So Brahma is the first entity, is empowered by the Lord to take the charge of mode of passion. And he was given required intelligence which is so powerful and extensive that it is almost independent of the control of the Supreme Person. Just like a very highly placed manager is independent kind of person. So similarly, Brahmaji is almost as powerful as independent of as the Supreme Person Godhead, but still he is not totally independent. God gives him intelligence to create. So Prabhupada again now brings the scientists. So many scientists, great workers, have wonderful creative code, but they act and create only according to the direction of the Supreme Lord. So he can create many inventions, but he cannot overcome the laws of material nature. So Brahma created the universe for them. So when is the break? There's some break in 3 hours class. What is the time? 12:15. 12 o'clock and 12:15. No, it's already like 5. Then we can take it down. After that, we will go fast because one chapter a day we have to cover. So today we spend a little time on reviewing and all that. But nothing will go fast. Creation will come one after another. Brahma is active. Till now, 1,000 years the egg was lying on the ocean. So it was ready. Things will move fast. Okay, so there's a break for next 15 minutes. We can chant two rounds of Hare Krishna, we can get in one round, or we can take a little nap or whatever else is done. You can see your missed calls. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Nam, Eva Kevalam, Kalau Naste, Naste, Naste. Number 18. Let's recite together so that we can discuss more time. Sasarja chayaya vidyayam pancham parnavan agratah tamishram andatamishram tamo moho mahatamaha. Padho. Mic, padho. So after the sarga is done, after the primary creation is done, the elements are, created. The senses, the sense demigod, they are all created. Now, when the living entities in different forms, 84 lakh different forms have to be created. So the first creation which Lord Brahma does is that of the coverings of ignorance. Because without ignorance, the living entities will not identify with the forms they are being given. It is the ignorance by which the pure living entity, the pure Satchidanand soul, Atma, that soul start identifying with these forms given by material nature, given by material elements. So that binding between the form and the pure living entity is through the binding of ignorance. Earlier used to have the slogan, na Fevicol aisa jod lagaye, अच्छे से अच्छा ना तोड़ पाए. So similarly here ignorance is that bond. अज्ञान ऐसा जोड़ लगाए अच्छे से अच्छा भी ना तोड़ पाए. So that अज्ञानता is the bond by which the pure living entity start misidentifying with the material body made up of gross and subtle materiality. Because without ignorance, false identity is not possible. And all the visarga, all the different forms which are created, they're all false identities. Just like now in the world, there are so many kind of vehicles, so many kind of houses, so many kind of clothes are there. But the common thing is that none of the clothes, none of the vehicle, none of the house is the same as the person using them. There's a clear difference. Whether one may be sitting on a Bajaj bike or one may sit on a Hero Honda bike or one may sit on Harley Davidson or, what is that, which makes a lot of noise? Bullet. But still, the driver and the vehicle are different. Or one may sit in Maruti or Ford or, Mercedes or whatever. Different. One may live in a tin shed or one may live in 3 BHK house, or one may live in a bungalow or a mansion or a villa, whatever. But the commonality is that the person who is occupying or who is using this thing is different than any of these things. Right? They may go on evolving. Car may go on evolving, houses may go on evolving. The person is different. Similarly, there are 84 lakh varieties, 84 lakh species are there, 84 lakh kind of bodies are there, mentalities are there, but they are all distinct. The original form, original nature of living entity is only one. Jivera Sarup Hoye, Krishna Nityadas. That's all. Eternally, everyone is by constitution servant of Krishna. But when Agyan comes, Agyan creates metal variety. Knowledge creates a spiritual variety. That means all souls are Satchidanand, but within that Satchidanand, there is a variety in which they serve. Somebody renders service as tree, somebody renders service as cow, somebody renders service as deer, somebody renders service as Yamuna river, somebody renders service as flower. So there is spiritual variety, but that is all in knowledge. And metal variety is all because of ignorance. It's all same metal element, whether it's one brand car or another brand car, they're all made of metal, rubber, fiber, and all that, right? It's just the way they're organized that somebody is called, something is called Mercedes, something is called Maruti, but the elements are same. There's no variety in the real sense. So material variety is a product of ignorance. A spiritual variety is a product of affection, is a product of rasa, is a product of desire to serve individually. So the first thing Brahma creates, the foundational thing, the bonding material by which the pure living entity gets binded with this species, this secondary creation, the different bodies, ignorance. And these are 5 in number. And Prabhupada at the end, he quotes the words from Padma Purana, Vishnu Purana, where it says, Tamo viveko mohasyad anta karanam vibrama mahamohastu vigyeyo gramya bhoga sukhasena maranam hi tamishram krodha uchyate avidya pancha parvaisha padurbhuta mahatmana. So from there, he quotes the words at the end, but he gives definition in the different section. In the 3 paragraph, he defines each one, and which is very important for us to know because we are not yet fully awakened to our spiritual nature. So these coverings are there in certain degree. And the important thing to understand is that these coverings cannot be removed by one's own endeavors. One can sincerely desire to get out of the coverings, but one cannot remove the covering himself. The coverings are put by the arrangement of the Lord through Brahmaji, and the coverings will be removed by the mercy of the Lord only. That is why I say, Devi Esha Godmai Mammaya Durataya Mam Evaye Prapadyante. Mayam Etam Tarantite. Mam Evaye Prapadyante. Only when we surrender, Krishna uplifts them. Imagine if our hands and legs are tied and we are covered by 1 blanket, 2nd blanket, 5 blankets are there on top. So first of all, we don't even realize because we have been born in that darkness only. So we don't realize that there are blankets on the top also. So only by Shabda Pramana when you hear that there is a spiritual life which is free from all inability of the material world, all this, Janma, Mrityu, Shoka, Moha, Bhaya, this beyond that, and we develop faith. Then when we sincerely desire to get out of the coverings, then by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, the coverings are removed. Om Agyan Timidan Dasya Jnananjan Shalakya. So that desire has to develop. And that desire develops by the process of hearing. So then, by the mercy of the Lord, the coverings may be removed. And then one may see the reality. That. So Srila Prabhupada gives quite a bit of long purport. These 5 different conditions, cover the living entity who want to enjoy sense gratification. The first condition is covering of tamishra or anger. Here it says. So constitutionally, we all have minute independence. It is the misuse of this minute independence for the conditioned soul to think that he can also enjoy like the Supreme Lord, or to think, why shall I not be a free enjoyer like the Supreme Lord? And the forgetfulness of his constitutional position is due to anger or envy. So living entity is a part and parcel of the Lord. He can never be an equal enjoyer. When you forget this, he, however, tries to be one with him, and it's called Tamishra. So, Ichha Dvesa Samuthena Dvanda Mohena Marat. Because of Ichha, because the desire to enjoy separate from the Lord, Ichha, and Dvesh, feeling that why should only Lord enjoy, why not me? So this Ichha Dvesa Samuthena Dvanda Mohena Marat. So because of that, one comes in the realm of duality. One comes in the material realm. Now, this is important. Even in the field of spiritual realization, this Tamishra mentality of the living entity is hard to overcome. Just like today he was mentioning, this is one of the hit seminars in the ILS. Bhakti Vigyan, Holiness Bhakti Vigyan Goswami Maharaj telling about how the devotees also can be, Pancha Upasaka. That Pancha Ishwar Upasana is there, where Shaktas and Ganapatyas and Surya worshippers and Shaivites, one more. No, Ganapatya is a Ganesh. Surya. 5 worshippers. So he was telling. So similarly, Prabhupada is right. Even in the field of spiritual realization, this Tamishra mentality of the living entity is hard to overcome. In trying to get out of the entanglement of material life, there are many who want to be one with the Supreme. Even in their transcendental activities, this lower grade mentality of Tamishra continues. So whenever, even in the transcendental activity, whenever our mindset becomes, I want to be better than someone, I want to defeat someone, I want to be best in this field, I want to be supreme in this field, that is what? Tamishra mentality. But what is that? Even in the transcendental activity, that means activities are transcendental, like say book distribution, deity worship, kirtan, or anything, cooking. But transcendental activity also, if this feeling comes that I want to be better than others, I should be the one who should be known to people that this field means this, kirtan means this, deity worship means this, book distribution means this person, cooking means this person, preaching means this person, and whatever. So when that kind of desire comes, that is same Tamishra. That's what Prabhupada says. Even in the field of transcendental activity, or even in trying to get out of the entanglement of material life, there are many who want to be one with the Supreme. So you will not say you want to be Krishna, but when we are desiring to be better than everyone else, that is the same mentality which has brought us here. Because devotee's mood is to be servant of the servant of the servant. Doesn't mean he doesn't want to refine and do the best. He wants to do the service in the best possible way, but not with the pride that I am better than others, but with the pride, with the feeling that I'm grateful for having the opportunity to do that service. He's not neglectful, he's not irresponsible. But at the same time, even while doing his best, or even while doing his best as recognized by others, the mindset, the intention is that of humility. That is where the difference. Otherwise, one may get trapped by Tamishra even in devotional practice. And the Tamishra involves considering death to be the ultimate end. So then Prabhupada goes further, how the atheists consider body as the self and they feel everything ends. And then he quotes that famous verse, Yavat Jivit, Dukham Jivit. How did it start? Huh? Granapratva Idam Kritva. Basically, back borrow still, but eat food is made in ghee. So he is putting that English translation. That by borrowing, by stealing, whatever way, Bhasmi Bhutasya Dehasya Kuto Punaragam. So that is English translation Prabhupada has put as it is. This atheistic concept of life is killing human civilization, for it is without knowledge of the continuation of eternal life. When people think life is like all in all what we see, then people don't mind doing sinful and wrong activities for enjoyment. So it kind of encourages a life of immorality, a life of exploitation for others, and people don't consider that next life is there. They don't regard morality in any sense. And the Tamishra ignorance is due to tamas. The condition of not knowing anything about the spiritual soul is called tamas. Mental world is also called tamas because 99% of it living entity are ignorant of their identity as soul. Almost everyone is thinking that he is this body, he has no information of spirit soul. Guided by this misconception, one always thinks this is my body, anything in relationship with this body is mine. And for such misguided living entities, sex life is the background of mental existence. Actually, the conditioned souls in ignorance in this material world are simply guided by sex life, and as soon as they get the opportunity for sex life, they become attached to so-called Ata Graha Kshetra Sutapta Vittir, home, motherhood, children, wealth and opulence. As these attachments increase moha, moha means the illusion of the bodily concept of life. So then the moha increases. I am this body, everything belonging to this body is mine. And as the whole world is put into moha, they fight with each other, family, nationalities are created. Mahamoha means to be mad after material enjoyment. Even in this age of, especially in this age of Kali, everyone is overwhelmed by the madness to accumulate paraphernalia for material enjoyment. So much for body. I mean, if you go, we don't go to malls, we don't go to, these places where the bodily consciousness is so reinforced. But even if you go to railway station, bus stand, walk on the road, see the billboards, or go to airport, so much, everything about the body is so highlighted. Now unisex salons have become like, something crazy. Everywhere you see them. Unisex saloon, boys, girls coming at the same place for a haircut. So much time. And earlier there was no beauty parlor for the man. Man was like little rough and tough, you know. But now, you know, man gets into the same business as women so much. This is all bodily consciousness, all makeup. Similarly, eating, so many hotels, so many restaurants, and they'll put big picture of, you know, all these dirty non-vegetarian items on the middle of the road. And then in the night you go from big 1 kilometer behind, you can see, you know, this wine shop, this beer shop, and you know, this family bar like that, all around the road. From here I go to Vella, so many hundreds of shops selling all the non-veg items or drinks or something, and people are not shy at all. People are no more shy. The beer bars, the drinking bars are all like transparent. They put glasses so that outside people can see what's happening inside. They get also attracted, you know. And in fact, there's a beer bar in Kothur. They were telling us in the book Distribution Realization. They were telling one of the teams that you know, there's some name they were given, and they have written tagline, because in heaven there is no beer. That's the tagline. Because in heaven there is no beer. So then, you know, people are just rushing madly. There's a queue. They have to wait for getting that turn to get a seat where they can sit and drink like that. So this world is going crazy. And recently somebody was telling me some song has come about drinking, glorifying drinking. And then somebody's telling chalo daru pite and something of that sort. So many teenagers and youths, because of the influence of this song of some movie, they've got so much influence that, you know, the rate of drinking has got multiple times. Now in Kashi Vishwanath, our government, prime minister and all, they have made a big corridor, very comfortable place, very nice darshan. So Varanasi attracted more pilgrims in itself for darshan than the tourists in Goa also. At the same time, the consumption of alcohol in Varanasi increased 20 times than the normal consumption throughout the year. So that one can have an idea that even in the name of religion, sense gratification only is being encouraged. It's a religious sense gratification. We are at a holy place. We had darshan and then we come back and do the same old thing. So this Mahamoha, mad attraction for material enjoyment is so much increasing. Eating, sleeping, mating, this is all like, you know, going at crazy speed. So Brahmaji created that. You can't blame Brahmaji because living entity want to enjoy, so then there has to be facility for them to enjoy that. So now we started, you know, creating, which we will go by translations. We'll not read verses because we want to complete this chapter today. Yes, text 19.
Out of disgust, Brahma threw off the body of ignorance and taking this opportunity, Yakshas and Rakshasas sprang for possession of the body, which continued to exist in the form of night. Night is the source of hunger and thirst.
So it's a, you know, it's a kind of subtle analogy or comparison has been drawn that Brahmaji will take on different mentalities. And because of those different mentalities, different kind of species will originate. And then Brahma will give up that mentality and it will be told that Brahmaji gave up this body. So gave up this body doesn't mean that he died. Giving up the mentality is also called giving up the body. So he will give up that mentality by which he created a certain kind of species, and that species will catch hold of that mentality, that body, and that will be, you know, indicated in the form of something like say night or day or moonshine, like that. So this is allegorical, but to make us understand the concept of what are the different species created and what consciousness, what mentality they are being created, and how do they sustain when they become active and how to sustain like that. So I'd like to quote this text from Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary on this, where he explains this. Where is that? Yeah, here. Text 19. Yeah, here we can read once and then we will go ahead with the different kind of bodies which Brahmaji is creating. Where whoever has the mic can read it.
not satisfied with his body, which became full of ignorance. Brahma gave up that body. This body transformed into night, which gives rise to hunger and thirst. Yakshas and Rakshasas respected the night.
So in ignorance, no? Because he created 5 kinds of ignorance. So his mentality was created those ignorances. So he gave up that body, which turned into night, and Yakshas and Rakshasas were, respected the night. Read this part of the purport, what is written. So just to understand, because it will be subsequently repeated in all different ways.
He was not pleased with the shadow body. Ah, I have been covered with ignorance at the beginning of creation. Criticizing himself, he gave up that body. That rejected body became night. The demons who had arisen from Brahma at that time accepted the night. This means that avidya and adharma, avarna and vikshepa are superior to the yakshas and rakshasas. Then Brahma gave up that body which produced hunger and thirst. Shruti says, Sat Tamishra Bhavat, that became Tamishra. When it says that Brahma gave up his body, it means that he gave up the mentality of that body. Since Brahma lives for 100 years, the sequence is as follows. First, tamas arose, anger and the rest. The mentality arising from tamas appeared in the mind of Brahma. From that, the yakshas and rakshasas appeared. That mentality of tamas, when Brahma rejected it, then became the night. The yakshas and rakshasas accepted it. Though Brahma accepted and rejects different bodies by his power of yoga to carry out creation, this does not disrupt his life of 100 years. Some also say that even the devatas like Indra accept and reject bodies for material enjoyment.
Yeah. So this is the meaning. Brahmaji will take on different mentalities and will create different species, and then will give up that body which will take the shape of some other thing. And that will be called up that Brahma gave up this body, and these people possess that body in the form of different things which will come up. So in the Subodhini, if you have, there's a whole summary also of what is created, what is the mentality, and how it turned out, to be further. So we will read further from our text. Yeah. So night is the source of hunger and thirst. Text 20.
Overpowered by hunger and thirst, they ran to devour Brahma from all sides and cried, "Spare him not, eat him up."
So some were shouting, that na rakshati, don't spare him. And some were saying, yeah, akshati, eat him up. So that's why they became yakshas and rakshasa. It is explained in the next verse. So Prabhupada said that representative yaksha and rakshasa still exists in some countries. And these people take pleasure in killing their own grandfathers and holding a love feast by roasting the bodies. So
Brahma, the head of the demigod, full of anxiety, asked them, "Do not eat me, but protect me. You are born from me and have become my sons. Therefore, you are Yakshas and Rakshasas."
So yakshas became who? Who says eat him up? When they were akshati yakshas, they wanted to eat up Brahma. And arakshati means those who said, do not spare him, do not protect him. So demons who were born from the body of Brahma were called yaksha rakshasas. Some of them said he should be eaten, others said he should not be protected. So yaksha and rakshasa are the original creation by Brahma and are represented even until today in the uncivilized men who are scattered all over the universe. They are born of the mode of ignorance, and therefore, because of their behavior, they are called rakshasas or man-eaters. So there's a very difference. Rakshasas, Danavas, Daityas, they are all different grades of species. They're not all same. No? Sometimes it's Asura. So Asura is different, Danava is different, Rakshasa is different, Daitya is different. They have their own characteristics. They're not all one and the same. Similarly, there are Devatas, there are Upadevatas. Right? There are Kinnaras, Gandharvas. They are not called Devatas. They are on a different planet. So there are categories. But because we don't get into that much, so सबको एक ही में डाल देते हैं. But there are categories for that. Now he creates devatas. Read.
He then created the chief demigod, who were shining with the glory of goodness. He dropped before them the effulgent from the form of daytime, and the demigods sportingly took possession of it.
So Prabhupada said demons are created in night, demigods are born from the creation of day. So they are in the quality of ignorance, the Yaksha and Rakshasas, and demigods are in the quality of goodness.
Lord Brahma then gave birth to the demons from his buttock, and they were very fond of sex because they were too lustful. They approached him for copulation.
So this is Adeva. Lord Brahma gave birth to the demons. Devo Adeva Thagnatah. Srijanti Smati Lolupan. So they were Ati Lolupan, they were greatly fond of sex. And Prabhupada says, sex life is the background of material existence. Here also it is repeated that demons are very fond of sex life. The more one is free from the desire for sex, the more he is promoted to the level of demigod. The more one is inclined to enjoy the sex life, more he is degraded to the level of demonic life. So, infatuation for sex life is a criteria for demon and demigod, as per Prabhupada in this purport. Prabhupada also mentions similar thing in what the Samudra Manthan Leela. After that, who is the personality who appears with that Mohini Murthy. So there also Prabhupada says all the demons were bewildered because they were so captivated by her beauty, and the demigods were also seeing her, but they were not captivated. So because they were situated in the mode of goodness, they could see things better. Although in Shastra we also hear about demigods getting infatuated, like Indra and all, but that is very rare. It's not a commonplace thing. But for demons, that infatuation of sex life is always there. And that is why, although there are Bilaswarga, the Bilaswarga means the subterranean heavenly planet, where the sunlight is not there, where the Nagas are there, Manis are there, light is there. But they're all characterized by their demons always continuously engaged in gross sex life. On the other hand, there is Swarga. There is Swarga, there is, Bhuswarga, and there is Bilaswarga. So the Swarga, demigods have a higher standard of enjoyment. They also intermix with the opposite sex, but they are singing like they are singing some, classical music, and they are roaming there, they're joking. But in the subterranean planet, there is more gross sex life. So it turned from a subtler enjoyment to passionate enjoyment to more enjoyment in the mode of ignorance. So that is how, according to their attraction for sex life, they are divided into demigods and demoniac. Okay. Next, read it.
The worshipable Brahma first laughed at their stupidity, but finding the shameless asuras close upon him, he grew indignant and ran in great haste out of fear.
Yeah. So first he laughed, but later on he saw that they are not stopping. Then he became fearful and he ran in great haste out of. And Prabhupada says the best policy for a saintly father like Brahma is to leave such demonic sons. So let's recite this verse. Sa upavrajya varadam prapannarti haram harim anugrahaya bhaktanam anurupatma darshanam.
He approached the personality of Godhead, who bestows all boons and who dispels the agony of his devotees and of those who take shelter of his lotus feet. He manifests his innumerable transcendental forms for the satisfaction of his devotees.
Anugrahaya Bhaktanam, for showing his mercy to his devotees. Anurupa. Anurupa means suitable form, as the form in which the devotee approaches the Lord. Anurupa Darshanam. In that form, the Lord gives darshan. So, Prabhupada, it's very sweet purport here. Bhaktanam Anurupatma Darshanam means the person of God manifests his multi forms according to the desire of the devotees. For example, Hanumanji want to see Lord Ramchandra, other Vaishnavas want to see Radha Krishna, others want to see Lakshmi Narayan. The Mahaprakash Leela, how Murari Gupta, Lord Chaitanya manifested the form of Sita Ram Lakshman like that. So Anugrahaya Bhaktanam Anurupatma Darshanam. Mayavadi philosophers think that although all these forms are assumed by the Lord, just as the devotee desire to see him, actually he is impersonal. From Brahma Samhita, however, we can understand this is not so, for the Lord has multi-form. Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Anantarupam. The Lord does not appear before the devotee because of the devotee's imagination. The Brahma Samhita explained Lord has innumerable forms. He exists in millions and millions of forms. As the waves in the sea cannot be counted but appear and disappear continuously, the incarnations and forms of Lord are innumerable. A devotee is attached to a particular form and it is that form which he worships. Right? Like there's a boar form. So the boar form is also eternally existing. It is a devotee's inclination to worship a particular form and he engages in devotion service to that form. So this is the devotee's heart, wherever, in whatever way he surrendered to the Lord in whichever form. That is wonderful. There's no problem. One should not consider one above another. For us, it may be that we may worship Radha Krishna, but if somebody is worshipping Lakshmi Narayana and Sita Ram, as long as they have the right personal understanding, that's all right. That's not a problem. In Mahaprabhu's Leela, we find Murari Gupta and another person who was worshipping Lord Ram, Anupam, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami brother. Very similar story. So they are not considered less. They are also counted in Mahaprabhu's associates. So all the forms of the Lord are eternal. It is the devotee's inclination to worship a particular form and engages in devotion service to that form. That is accepted. That is allowed. Hanumanji says in a verse in Ramayana, there is no difference between Sita Ram and Lakshmi Narayan, but nevertheless the form of Ram and Sita has absorbed my affection and love. Similarly, the Gaudiya Vaishnavas love the form of Radha and Krishna and Rukmini at Dwarka. Actually, here Prabhupada is a little more broader. So he is including Krishna and Rukmini at Dwarka. But there's another verse in Bhagavad Gita, right? Which verse is that, you know? Which verse? Sarva Dharman Parityaja Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. Prabhupada right there that a devotee should not be attracted even to the four-handed form of Krishna. Only a devotee should be attracted to the form of Krishna in Vrindavan, Shyam Sundar form. Very specific. Here he's saying, okay, like Radha Krishna or Krishna and Rukmini. So anyway, that's fine. So Bhaktanam Anurupatma Darshana means Lord is always pleased to favor the devotee in whichever form the devotee want to worship him. So when Brahma approached him, then Brahma approached Lord Hari. So Brahma approached Lord Hari and he approached the Lord mentally. Brahma mentally approached the Lord and then made a request in the form of the next two verses. So, you know, in life, problem, trouble, difficulty, challenge, test can come at any moment. Now, Brahmaji is engaged in creation and if they are his sons created from his buttocks, but they are attacking him. And then what is Brahmaji doing? Brahmaji is just taking shelter of the Lord. So indicatively, figuratively, when lust attacks, because lust is a product of our own mind. Lust is a mentality. Many times it is not that anybody grossly physically attacks us. It is our own mind who goes crazy and chases after sense objects, right? People are not even aware. We are walking on the road, we are traveling on the road, somebody is sitting somewhere, then nobody is aware and our mind is like, you know, going all around and getting disturbed. So lust is a creation of our own mind. When the lust attacks, the way to protect ourselves is to take shelter of the Lord. As Lord Brahmaji is showing that his worshipable Lord is Chirodakshai Vishnu. So he's going to him and praying to him. So similarly, we come back and we pay obeisances to the deities and reveal that I'm too disturbed, I'm distracted, I'm getting troubled. And then take shelter of the Lord. That is the way to get protection from the lust. So Brahmaji's prayer, let's recite. Pahimam paramatmanaste preshanas sarjam praja taima yavitam papa upakramanti mam prabho.
Lord Brahma, approaching the Lord, addressed him thus, My Lord, please protect me from these sinful demons, who were created by me under your order. They are infuriated by an appetite for sex and have come to attack me.
So we can pray also. My dear Lord, please protect me from my sinful desires, who have got created in my mind because of influence of illusory energy. So, Prabhupada, right, homosexual appetite is created in this episode of the creation of demons by Brahma. The homosexual appetite for a man for another is demonic and not finite and sane. Then there's the next prayer. Tvamekam killokanam klishtanam kleshanashana Tvamekam kleshadastesham anasanna padam tava.
My Lord, you are the only one capable of ending the affliction of the distressed and inflicting agony on those who never resort to your feet.
Two things it is. Kleshadam tesham anasanna padam tava. First is to give protection to people who have taken shelter of his lotus feet. Second is to give trouble to those who are always demonic and who are inimical toward the Lord. But that Lord does not do directly. That is, Lord assigns, delegates it to Maya. Mama Maya Durutta. My Maya, but Durutta. Mama Maya Durutta. Not that I am Durutta. The Lord is the equipoise. But Mama Maya, Lord delegates it to. Maya's function is to give affliction to non-devotees. So Lord is saying here that I am surrendered unto your lotus feet. You are the protector of surrendered souls. So please give me protection from these people. So now the Lord says, yes, read the translation.
The Lord, who can distinctly see the minds of others, perceived Brahma's distress and said to him, "Cast off this impure body of yours." Thus commanded by the Lord, Brahma cast off his body.
So this is the impure body which is imbued with lust. Again, it's a mentality. It's a mentality of lust in which the demons were created. So then Brahma gives up that lusty mentality. That means the body is given up, he becomes peaceful. Interesting, Prabhupada writes. The Lord is described here by the word Vivikta Adhyatma Darshana. If anyone can completely perceive another's distress, without doubt, it is the Lord himself. If someone is in distress and want to get relief from his friend, sometimes it so happens that his friend does not appreciate the volume of distress, suffering. But for the Supreme Lord, it is not difficult. The Supreme Lord as Paramatma is sitting within the heart of every living entity and he directly perceives the exact cause of distress. So sometimes that discussion goes on, you might have heard it, that Supreme Lord is Kevala Ananda Kanda, he is always blissful. He cannot understand or perceive the suffering of the living entity. Actually, the Supreme Lord can never undergo material distress because the darkness or the ignorance cannot ever touch the sun. There is no time when the sun can have its shadow. The sun is self-effulgent. So similarly, the Supreme Lord never undergo distress at any point of time. But there is no one other than the Supreme Lord who can understand the distress of the living entity in the best way without experiencing it. So sometimes, that debate, I don't know whether you have ever heard or not, but sometimes it goes on. Bhagwan ko kabhi living entity ka dukh samajh mein nahi aa sakta hai, because they can never experience that. So it's true that sun can never experience darkness. So similarly, the Supreme Lord never undergoes any distress on his own accord. But here, as Prabhupada explained, that if anyone can completely perceive another distress, without doubt, it is the Lord himself. He is not distressed, but he can best understand other distress. So we should not do that, what do you call that? Atmavad Manyate Jagat logic, that, whatever way I am, just like Mayavadi said that, our form is limited, then Lord takes a form, then the form is limited. No, Lord takes the form, doesn't take the form. Lord is always unlimited. Even in the form, he is unlimited, right? Now, what a 5-year-old child can do, 7-year-old child can do. But then Krishna, even in the 7-year-old child form, he can lift the whole mountain. Doesn't have to increase his size, form. So Lord, whether in the form or without form, is unlimited. Atmavad Manyate Jagat should not be applied. So similarly, one should not think that because, Lord never undergo distress, he cannot understand my distress. Here it is clearly explained that Lord is the one, because he is there as Paramatma, he perceives directly the exact cause of distress. Thus, whenever one fully surrenders unto the Supreme Lord, one finds out that he is sitting within one's heart. He can give us direction on how to get out of dangers or how to approach him in devotional service. The Lord, however, asked Brahma to give up his present body because it had created the demonic principle. According to Sridhar Swami, Brahma's constant dropping off his body does not refer to the actually giving of his body. Rather, he suggests that Brahma gave up particular mentality, as we read in Srila Vishwanath Thakur's also. Mind is the subtle body of the living entity. We may sometimes be absorbed in some thought which is sinful, but if we give up the sinful thought, it may be said that we give up the body. Brahma's mind was not in correct order when he created the demons. It must have been full of passion because the entire creation was passionate. Therefore, such passionate sons were born. It follows that any father, mother should be careful while begetting children. So we know that Garbhadan Sanskar Prabhupada talks about. When the parent engages their mind in the lotus feet of the Lord, such a state, the child is born naturally, good devotee children come up. So we don't create any children, but we do services. So at least before services, we should bring our mind to a state of goodness. Because if we keep it in passion and ignorance, and while doing the service and when the outcome of the service comes, then we might get affected by the passion thing. We might do service for getting some benefit out of it, or for disturbing others. So at least in goodness, we bring the mind to goodness, that I am doing this by the mercy of the Lord, by the blessings of all the devotees. for the pleasure of all the devotees in our community and without considering myself as a doer. So that is the right consciousness. So one should prepare one's mind before doing service, because we are not begetting children, so there are no garbhajan sanskar for brahmacharis. So better is that service is our child. We prepare our consciousness consciously before we get into a particular activity or particular service. Okay. Next. No, this is exciting. Okay, read.
The body given up by Brahma took the form of the evening twilight, when the day and night meet, a time which kindles passion. The asuras, who are passionate by nature, dominated as they are by the element of rajas, took it for a damsel, whose lotus feet resounded with the tinkling of anklets, whose eyes were wide with intoxication, and whose hips were covered by fine cloth, over which shone a girdle.
Yeah. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes how this twilight, the evening time when the Sandhya is there, no? When the sun is setting and evening is coming, that's the time of dusk. So that is the twilight time. So that's the time which kindles passion. And the situation around the demons, they perceived it to be like a beautiful young damsel, beautiful young woman. Although it was not there. So it was in their imagination. So he explains, what all different thing, how they compared it. So once we read it, I think we'll open that purport and read it. It's interesting. Prabhupada also mentioned, early morning is the best period for spiritual cultivation, and evening is the period for passion. So demonic man, very fond of sex enjoyment, they very much appreciate the approach of evening. The demon took the approach of the evening twilight to a beautiful woman, and they began to adore her in various ways. They imagine the twilight to be a very beautiful woman with tinkling bangles on her feet, girdle on her hips, beautiful breast, and they imagined the appearance of this beautiful girl before them. They totally kind of had imagination. So the demons are imagining that the twilight has taken the form of woman and they're getting excited about it. They're speaking also to it. So please understand, this woman, the concept of woman exists in the mind first. It is not that the woman has any problem in terms of their bodily thing and all. It's the illusion which is there stored in the mind, which makes a man attracted towards a woman. Right? The women are there. Why the great sages don't get attracted? Not only great sages, even people who are homosexuals. For them, they get attracted to male body only. They don't get attracted to female body. So that means it is not that something is lying in them, it is there in the mind. Their mind is perverted. So in their mind, there is a setting by which they get attracted to another man. And in somebody's mind, there is a setting, they get attracted to a woman. So it's a mental thing only. Like we hear of that one example, Shambhu gives that. A boy was going in the bus, he boarded the bus, and he saw in front of him, a girl is standing with long hair, and he got so excited because the bus was overfilled and he was touching the body, and he passed Simon in the pants only. So he was like, very excited. And when the station came, and then the person turned over and he had like big mustache and chewing tobacco, and he laughed at him and walked. So it was imagination in the mind. It was not a factual thing. Just imagine, because there's long hair, the man, he imagined as a woman, and he has all the sensation of, as if he's associating with a woman. And similarly, even if a woman is not physically there, sometimes the mind, just by seeing some, dirty video or dirty picture, the mind gets hyper excited, a person loses semen. So it's all in the mind. So it is not that the demons are crazy. The sex life, the whole lust concept is crazy only. Whether they were demons of that time or whether, the people of this time, the whole concept of lust is mental. It's the mind which imagines like that. And that is why sometimes, with our own understanding, we say, hey, this girl doesn't look so beautiful. But for somebody else, that girl is the most beautiful girl in the entire world. This is a mental conception. Like, for example, for Indians, in general, average Indian I'm talking, white skin looks to be beautiful. White skin ladies may look more beautiful. But then if you go to Africa, then the black is beautiful there. So it's a mental conception. It's the mind's imagination. Whatever the mind imagines, that appears to it to be exciting and beautiful. So the demons thought of twilight to be a lady, and then Maitreya Muni and further Sukadeva Goswami, Suta Goswami, they give that elaborate description. Two things in Bhagavatam you'll find. Whenever the Lord appears, beautiful description. And whenever they talk of women, there also elaborate description, not cut short. भागवतम है ब्रह्मचारी लोग पढ़ेंगे बंद करो just कोई तो माता उसको समझ लिया. No, they will give full description. Any section where you remember, so wherever Lord appears, whether it is appearing to Dhruva, whether it is appearing to Prahlad Maharaj, whether it is appearing in any sacrifice, or whether it is appearing to Prithu Maharaj, beautiful description of Lord will come. Very similar. The same Lord is appearing. Now also it will come further in the next chapter, it will come. But women description also is very elaborate. Where all it is there? Puranjan Upakyan is there. Puranjan saw the beautiful lady and how he was guided by the snake and how she was beautiful. Where else? Huh? Agnidhara. Yeah, Agnidhara and that fifth canto. All elaborate description of that. Right. So many places it comes. Why? Because Bhagavatam want to take out the thorn by using another thorn. That means by describing it in Bhagavatam and proving its futility, it want to remove that illusion from the mind. Bhagavatam want to cure that illusion of the mind just by narrating it right here, not allowing that the person goes to experience it. More than what one can experience, Bhagavatam pages are described. Right? How the person becomes so infatuated by lust or by anger or by illusion. For example, Bharat Maharaj got infatuated by illusion. So he was not attracted to women, he was attracted to deer. And for him, the deer became so, attractive that he forgot everything else. He's saying, oh my dear, oh my beloved dear. And so, nobody will say such dialogue to one's wife or girlfriend also. But Bharat Maharaj became attracted to deer. So Bhagavatam want to emphasize that all these anarthas, they exist in the mind. And by properly reading Srimad Bhagavatam, by properly understanding it, we can get rid of those illusions just by reciting, reading, understanding Srimad Bhagavatam. One doesn't have to gain experience of that. It is very much possible. Bhagavatam has that capacity to remove that. And that is why Bhagavatam gives a full-fledged experience. What do you say here? Just see about this. Just see about kings like Pururva, who got attracted to Urvashi. Again, there's a whole description. Maharaj Yayati was such a powerful king. So all these descriptions are giving to prove that nobody, no matter how powerful, for how many years one has enjoyed, never one gets satisfied. Only bhakti is the thing by which one gets satisfied. To bring to that conclusion, Bhagavatam goes in great detail to establish this concept. Okay. Read first and we can go for that one. What?
The body given up by Brahma took the form of hairbreadth projected upward because of their clinging to each other, and they were too contagious to admit any intervening space. She had a shapely nose and beautiful teeth. A lovely smile played on her lips, and she cast a sportful glance at the asuras.
So Prabhupada does not another. Okay, here he will give purport here.
Self, as it were, out of shyness. Upon seeing that girl, the asuras were all infatuated with an appetite for sex.
So says the difference between demon and demigod is a beautiful woman very easily attract the mind of demons, but she cannot attract the mind of a godly person. So at certain time, Prabhupada defined liberation means freedom from sex life. That's all. Make it very simple. Because no matter what, so many other formulas, so many things may be there, but actual liberation means to get freed from gross and subtle sex. Even gross is very big achievement. It's not small. And then subtler, puja la pratishtha. Then one becomes freed, one is liberated. Just like a child is attracted by beautiful dolls, similarly a demon who is less intelligent and full of ignorance is attracted by material beauty and an appetite for sex. The godly person knows this nicely dressed, ornamented attraction of high breast, hips, beautiful nose is Maya. All the beauty a woman can display is only a combination of flesh and blood. So, Prabhupada said once, he was a disciple, I don't remember the entire thing, and saying that what is the difference, that it's all flesh and blood and everything like that. And the disciple said, Prabhupada, it's all at the right place. You remember that? It says it's all at the right place. That's what it attracts. And beyond that, what happens that the mind is covered with a layer of ignorance. And because of that ignorance, that covering of the mind, that kind of what do you call that? Jadoo tona we call it now. What do you call it in English? That black magic or samoha. That kind of covering there on the mind, because of which it feels a natural attraction for that. And then Prabhupada says further, Sri Shankaracharya has advised all persons not to be attracted by the interaction of flesh and blood. They should be attracted by the real beauty in a spiritual life. The real beauty is Krishna and Radha. One who is attracted by the beauty of Radha and Krishna cannot be attracted by the false beauty of this material world. That is the difference between a demon and a godly person or a devotee. So, there is only one way. Param Drishtva Nivartate. Param Drishtva. To whatever degree we get attracted by the sight of transcendental beauty, to that degree one will get freed from that. Otherwise, there's no way, because the soul is attracted by beauty. Among all the qualities of Krishna, his beauty and compassion are most attractive. So, when the perverted form comes, Krishna is attracted to Radharani, Madan, Mohan, Mohini. So, in this human form life, we get material body which looks like two-handed form. Then there is attraction for female form. So, in the spiritual world also, the female form is there in the form of Srimati Radharani. So, because that attraction exists in Krishna, that attraction is there in the living entity by nature. But that attraction is there for the sake of service, not for the sake of selfish enjoyment. That's the difference. In the spiritual world, Radha Krishna's beauty attracts everyone's heart. There are billions and trillions and quadrillions of, gopis and sakhis and manjaris. They are serving Radha Krishna. They're all attracted by their beauty. So attraction for beauty is real. But not connecting to the real, now we are getting attracted towards the perverted reflection. So Prabhupada says that one who is attracted by the beauty of Radha and Krishna cannot be attracted by the false beauty of this material world. And that one has to practice. So here they further says, oh, what a beauty, what rare self-control, what a budding youth. In the midst of us all who are passionately longing for her, she is moving about like one absolutely free from passion. Indulging in various speculations about the evening twilight which appeared to them endowed with the form of a young woman, the wicked-minded Asuras treated her with respect and fondly spoke to her as follows. So I'll just show this purport where Vishnu Jagati Thakur explains what exactly this form they were seeing. Yeah, here it is. Read it.
Verse 37 explains that this woman was imaginary. They took the twilight to be a woman. They imagined the sound of birds returning to their nests in the twilight to be the sound of ankle bells. They imagined the clouds with specific shapes to be the woman's feet, eyes, hips, and breasts. This is suggested by the word Payodara, which means a cloud as well as a breast. The pink color of the sunset was her pink dress. Rhodas can mean the hips as well as the bank of clouds. Because of rubbing together, the breasts became raised without space between them. The disappearance of the clouds was her act of hiding in shyness. Her smile and glances were like a small amount of sun rays. Her black hair extending from her head to her feet was a towering black cloud. O Vidura, Dharma, the demons thinking of Pulabhya, the twilight as a woman, became bewildered.
So demons talk under the influence of illusion created by lust. So they became totally enamored, and nothing new. All the Hindi movie songs are, symptoms of this craziness what people have about women. So they treated her with respect and fondly spoke to her as follows. You see, even demons, they appear to be very civilized in front of women. Like Mohini Murthy also, when she appeared, then everyone became very disciplined, very decent. Everyone said, we are very gentle people and we surrender to you. Whomsoever you want to give the Amrit, you can give. So this is the nature. Srila Prabhupada writes at one place that the mentality of the man changes in the presence of a woman. The mentality of the man, somehow or other. I mean, there's nothing to give and take, but just even if a woman is there in vicinity, Mentality changes. One girl comes and sits there in that corner, the entire class, everything will change. Somehow it changes. So that is the principle which is being enumerated here. And they're asking, who are you, oh pretty girl? Whose wife or daughter are you? Because earlier that was the introduction in the form of either the wife or daughter or, mother of someone like that. What can be the object of your appearing before us? Why do you tantalize us, unfortunate as we are, with the priceless commodity of your beauty? So this section is being, given in the middle of creation. It's like substantial. 8 verses are talking about this part. Because, the Bhagavatam is a medicine. Bhagavatam is a medicine for the conditioned state of the living entity. And what is the condition? The condition is sex life. Right? The material world is called as, what is Prabhupada calls the material world as? Dukhalayam is one. What else? Hospital. No, the word.
Maithunagar.
Maithunagar. In the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita talks. Maithunagar. So Prabhupada, another place, like the thought of sex life is never too far from the mind of a conditioned soul. The whole conditioning is for sex life. Gross and subtle. And the whole foundation of sex life is what is in it for me. That is the foundation. And the manifestation is in the form of, either a woman or puja la pratishtha, like that. The mental leader of the demons is being enamored by the false beauty of this material world is expressed here. They can pay any price for the skin beauty. They work very hard day and night for the purpose of enjoying sex life. Sometimes they are called as karma yogis. Yoga means to link up with the Supreme Lord and to act in Krishna consciousness. Whosoever you may be, a beautiful girl, we are fortunate in being able to see you. While playing in the ball, you agitated the mind of the onlooker. And Prabhupada here again, beats them up. He says, demons arrange many kind of performances to see the glaring beauty of a beautiful woman. They saw the girl playing with the ball. Sometimes the demonic arranges for so-called sports like tennis with the opposite sex. The purpose of such sporting is to see the bodily construction of the beautiful girl and enjoy a subtle sex mentality. I mean, it's not about just talking or something. Even in seeing, the mind drives a certain kind of pleasure. Even not knowing who the girl is, what is there, not there. Just in seeing, the mind enjoys a certain kind of subtle sex. So then he says this is encouraged by sometime the yogi who says one can engage in sex at the same time become spiritually advanced. The public want to be cheated, and therefore Krishna creates the cheaters to misrepresent and delude. Bhagavad Gita, however, recommend that if one wants to enjoy life, then it cannot be done with these gross senses. Patient is advised to refrain from ordinary enjoyment while in the disease condition. Similarly, our mental condition is a disease condition. If you want to enjoy real sense enjoyment, then one must get free from the entanglement of material existence. In the spiritual life, we can enjoy sense enjoyment which has no end. That verse is there, 5.5.1. What is that? Nayam deho de bhajam na loke kashan kama narati would bhujam ye. Tapo divyam putra kaya na sattvam brahma sokyam tu ananta. So foolish creatures are enamored by the beauty of matter, thinking that this is real, but actually it is not real enjoyment. Further, it's a long words, long sections. And all this is illusory twilight. It's not actual woman. But again, for the mind, whether it is actual woman or twilight or a video or a photo or a mobile thing, it's just mind perceive everything in the same way. So it is not totally useless in that. It relates to. Read it.
O beautiful woman, when you strike the bouncing ball against the ground with your hand again and again, your lotus feet do not stay in one place. Oppressed by the weight of your full-grown breast, your waist becomes fatigued, and your clear vision grows dull, as it were. Pray braid your combly hair.
So, demons observe beautiful gestures in the woman's every step. And then he says, in every step they enjoy her womanly beauty. While they enjoy her beautiful beauty, their mind becomes agitated by sex. As moths at night surround a fire and are killed. Moths, you see, near the light of the bulb, they just get into that. So the demons become victims of the movement of the ball-like breast of a beautiful woman. The scattered hair of a beautiful woman also afflict the heart of a lusty demon. Now it concludes here. So Asuras, clouded in their understanding, took the evening twilight to be a beautiful woman, showing herself in a alluring form. They seized her. And now the next creation begins. Read it.
With a laugh full of deep significance, the worshipable Brahma then evolved by his own loveliness, which seemed to enjoy itself by itself, the host of Gandharvas and Apsaras.
Yeah. So the musician in the upper planetary system are Gandharvas. Brahma created Gandharvas and Apsaras. They are expert in music and dancing. So music, dancing, when applied for oneself is sense gratification, and applied in kirtan, that is transcendental. But one has to be careful because again, everything has a potential to be material or spiritual. A spiritual thing can potentially become material, and material thing can be potentially spiritual depending on the consciousness in which they are used. So, ISKCON also, kirtan is sometimes, although it is transcendental, but sometimes it is taken as a place or as a means for unnecessarily indulgence and mixing of boys and girls, men and women, like that. So one has to be very careful that one is not trying to impress anyone, one is rather trying to please the Supreme Lord through one's kirtan, chanting and dancing. So it is said that. Okay, go ahead.
After that, Brahma gave up that shining and beloved form of moonlight. Vishwavasu and other Gandharvas gladly took possession of it.
So they took possession of the moonlight. They are very excited about that. And Gandharvas, Apsaras, they come whenever anything wonderful is happening, they come to chant and dance for the Lord. Okay.
The glorious Brahma next evolved from his sloth, the ghost and friend. But he closed his eyes when he saw them stand naked with their hair scattered.
So they are also creation of Brahma. They are not false. And they put conditions into various miseries as per what they deserve. And they are creation of Brahma in the directions.
The ghost and goblins took possessions of the body thrown off in the form of yawing of Brahma by Brahma, the creator of the living entities. This is also known as the sleep which causes drooling. The hobgoblins and ghosts attack men who are impure, and their attack is spoken of as insanity.
So impure people, they are attacked by ghost and a hobgoblin and they become insane. So it says that they attack in an unclean state of existence. When the saliva flows from the mouth, ghosts take advantage of the unclean state and haunt his body. In other words, those who drool while sleeping are considered unclean and are subject to be haunted by ghosts or to go insane. Happens with children, you see. Many small kids, if you see, the saliva keeps on falling. Sometimes it happens with us also. Depends on, sometimes we are too tired and all. Sometimes it may not happen. So, okay.
Recognizing himself to be full of desire and energy, the worshipful Brahma, the creator of the living entities, evolved from his own invisible form. From his navel, the host of sadhyas and pitas.
Yeah, so sadhyas and pitas, they evolved from the individual form of Lord Brahma. And in the next verse, Prabhupada explains more about them. They took possession of the invisible body, which was the source of their existence. So it is the medium of the invisible body through which the oblation reaches them in the form of Shraddha. So Shraddha is a ritualistic performance observed by the followers of the Vedas. And there's a Pitra Paksh, Pitra Paksh, when you get a lot of invitations from Grasthas to come and honor. So we stopped this and we said, if you have to sponsor, you sponsor Brahman Bhojan in temple and we'll announce the name, but we'll not cook anything additional. Whatever is cooked, that's all. But otherwise, previously they used to call, and for them, because they are feeding one day in a year, and Brahmachari eats every day, not that he's only eating once in a year. So they will feed sometimes 20 items, 25 items. You can imagine what happened 20 items if we eat. That to all kind of heavy item, puran puli and amras and all kind of papads and that pakoras and everything. So This is Pitra Paksha, when the oblations are offered to departed souls. So those, the freaks of nature might not have a gross body for material enjoyment, can again gain such bodies due to the offering of Shraddha. So this performance of Shraddha is still current in India, especially at Gaya, where the lotus feet of the Lord is there. Because the Lord is thus pleased with the devotion service of the descendant, by his grace he liberates the condemned soul of forefather who do not have gross body. He favored them to again get a gross body. And then Prabhupada writes, unfortunately, the living entity employs the body for sense gratification. The devotee of the Lord, or one who is in Krishna consciousness, however, does not need to perform such ritualistic ceremonies as Shraddha, because he is always pleasing the Supreme Lord. Therefore, his father and ancestors who might have been in difficulty are automatically relieved. So this applies. Prabhupada at the end says, Shraddha Shabda Vishwasa Koile Sudrana Nishya Krishna Bhakti Koile Sarva Karma Katha. So this is the fact Prabhupada quotes at the same time, as Kanai Krishna was telling yesterday, that if in the right understanding somebody even does some ritualistic ceremonies, then it is not considered wrong. Because of some family pressure, somebody does it. Just like kings like Bharat Maharaj, Janak Maharaj, they were also performing ritualistic yajnas for demigods also. But while performing those yajnas, they thought Indra is the hand of the Supreme Lord. So they saw the demigods in connection with the Supreme Lord. And that is why even though they performed yajna for demigod, it was going to the Supreme Lord. And they did not desire any material benefit from that. Right? And they did it through their priest. So similarly, sometimes a devotee, because social obligation, may have to perform some ritualistic ceremonies, but he should not have faith in them. He should not feel, "Arey, ye karne se aisa ho jayega." So that is one has to be very careful about that. One may do it ritually if that's a need of the time, place, circumstances. Otherwise, one may be criticized. But one should not have faith in that. And if it's not required, then one should just, do Brahman Bhojan, and that's all. And Prahlad Maharaj example Prabhupada gives. The Lord replied that in a family where a Vaishnava like Prahlad is born, 14 generations, 21 generations actually are delivered. Conclusion is that Krishna consciousness is the sum total of all good work for the family, for society, and for all living entities. So then Prabhupada quote, Chaitanya Charitamrita, the author says, Krishna Bhakti Koile Sarva Karma Krato Hoy. That's the translation of this verse. Okay.
Then Lord Brahma, by his ability to be hidden from vision, created the Siddhas and Vidyadharas and gave them that wonderful form of his known as Antardhan.
So Antardhan means that he can become invisible by his will. So they cannot be seen by that. Read.
One day, Brahma, the creator of the living entities, beheld his own reflection in the water, and admiring himself, he evolved Kimpurushas as well as Kinnaras out of that reflection.
So he was admiring. And Kinnaras came out of that reflection. He was beholding, admiring himself. How beautiful I look. So that consciousness, that mentality they came. So people will possess that. Kim Purushas and Kinnara are very fond of looking beautiful. Gandharvas and Apsara are very fond of music and dancing. So whatever mentality produces them, they carry. That way that Garbhadhan Sanskar is there. If Varna Sankara is there, then they carry that demonic mentality. Nowadays, Matajis, they watch television, they mobile all the time and they're pregnant. So child also comes out and you give him mobile, he becomes silent. You can actually see that. A small child also, give him mobile, he doesn't understand what is happening, but you give him the thing and he does, because in the womb only, he got that samskar. The mother is watching. So you get that samskar. Okay.
The Kimpurushas and Kinnaras took possession of that shadowy form left by Brahma. That is why they and their spouses sing his praises by recounting his exploits at every daybreak.
So time 1.5 hours before sunrise called Brahma Muhurta. The spiritual activities performed early in the morning have a greater effect than in any other part of the day. So you want to be very powerful devotee, very, fastly advancing devotee, then very simple formula. Sleep early, wake up early. And you will be empowered in the best possible way. You can do the best of your potential, because morning, whether you read or whether you hear or whether you chant early in the morning, everything what you do before Mangal Arati also, that's very powerful, between 3:30 to 4:30, 3 to 4:30 like that. So if you can sleep early, then we can really be empowered and blessed much more. And for today's class, I had to wake up very early because I had to read, otherwise I was not prepared. So I experienced this. So for today, I can tell. Tomorrow, I don't know what time get up, but for today, at least, valid, I experienced it. So we can try, depending on our service and other thing. You can always try to come close to sleeping by 9:30, and then wake up by 3:30, and then have some time. It really helps a lot. Best thing happens is the chanting gets completed by 7:30, so that we can participate in everything else very enthusiastically.
Once Brahma lay down with his body stretched at full length, he was very concerned that the work of creation does not proceed at a pace. And in a sullen mode, he gave up that body too.
तो उनका चेतना में था कि कुछ काम नहीं हो रहा है, कुछ धीरे काम हो रहा है, क्या चल रहा है. So he gave up that body. What happened to that body? पढ़ो.
Oh dear Vidura, the hair that dropped from the body transferred into snake, and even while the body crawled along with its hands and feet constructed, they sprang from it ferocious serpents and nagas with their hoods expanded.
So Srila Vishwanath Thakur in his purport write about three category of snakes also. तीन प्रकार के snake are. So nagas are different. Huh? You know that the snakes, they have poisonous one, triangular head, non-poisonous one. So he writes of three categories, but we are not going to that. You can refer to that purport if you want. In this purport to this, he writes three kinds of snakes. Okay. Go ahead.
One day Brahma, the self-born, the first living creature, felt as if the object of his life had been accomplished. At that time, he evolved from his mind that Manus, who promotes the welfare activities of the universe.
Manu, that means one who is desiring welfare for the Manushas, that is Manu. Okay.
The self-possessed creator gave them his own human form. On seeing the Manus, those who had been created earlier, the demigods, the Gandharvas, and so on, applauded Brahma, the Lord of the universe.
Yeah, so Manu was created, then everyone clapped, everyone cheered. Why? That is explained in the next verse. Let's recite this. Aho etat jagat srashta sukritam batate kritam pratisthita kriya yasmin sakam annam adamahe.
They prayed, O creator of the universe, we are glad. What you have produced is well done. Since ritualistic acts have now been established soundly in his human form, we shall all share the sacrificial oblations.
सब खुश हो गए, खाना पीना मिलेगा ना. Because everyone survives on the oblations given on the planet Earth, right? So they became very happy because Krishna had made that system. He has said, "Oh demigods, and you all live peacefully. You perform sacrifice by which demigods will be pleased, and they will bestow benedictions upon you." In 3rd chapter Bhagavad Gita, 10th verse talks about that. So Prabhupada quotes it here. The Lord confirmed that in the beginning of creation, Brahma created the Manus along with ritualistic sacrificial method and blessed them. Continue these sacrificial rites and you will be gradually elevated to your proper position of self-realization and will also enjoy material happiness. All the living entities created by Brahma are conditioned souls and are inclined to laud it over material nature. The purpose of sacrificial rituals is to revive gradually the spiritual realization of the living entities. That is the beginning of life within this universes. These sacrificial rituals, however, are intended to please the Supreme Lord. Unless one pleases the Supreme Lord, or unless one is Krishna conscious, one cannot be happy either in the material enjoyment or in spiritual realization. Pleasing the Supreme Lord intentionally or being Krishna conscious, that is the foundational thing for being happy either in material enjoyment or in spiritual realization, both ways. So, tapasa vidya yukto yogena susamadhina rishin rishi rishi kesha samsraja bhimata praja.
Having equipped himself with austere penance, adoration, mental concentration, and absorption in devotion, accompanied by dispassion, and having controlled his senses, Brahma, the self born living creature, evolved great sages as his beloved sons.
So then the sages came. So the actual sequence is being mentioned by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in purport. Here the sequence is not exactly like Manu came the last, because they have already come. He's explaining that previously when Manu appeared, everyone cheered up. But the sequence is not exact. It's more exactly described there. So here he says the ritualistic performance of sacrifice is meant for material economic development. Dharma is for artha. In other words, they're meant to keep the body in good condition for cultivation of spiritual knowledge. But for actual attainment of spiritual knowledge, other qualifications are needed. What is essential is vidya, or worship of the Supreme Lord. Sometimes the word yoga is used to refer to gymnastic performance of different bodily postures which help mental concentration. Generally, the different bodily postures are accepted by less intelligent men to be end of yoga, but actually they are meant to concentrate the mind upon super soul. After creating person for economic development, Brahma created sages who would set the example for spiritual realization. Dharma, Artha, Kam, and Moksha. So sages would set the example for gaining moksha. That. Otherwise, Dharma, Artha, Kama will keep one bound to the material realm. The last verse. Tebhyasya kakasha swasya dehasyam samadat aja yattat samadhi yoga riddhi tapo vidya viraktimat.
To each one of this son, the unborn creator of the universe gave a part of his own body, which was characterized by deep meditation, mental concentration, supernatural power, austerity, adoration, and renunciation.
So whatever sages were created, then he gave meditation, mental concentration, supernatural power. So they were given different things, as we know previously in the previous section. There's more description. The four Kumaras, they were given the Jnana Shakti. Narada was given Bhakti Shakti. Like that, each one was given. The word Viraktimat in this verse means possessed of the qualification of renunciation. Spiritual realization cannot be attained by materialistic person. For those who are addicted to sense enjoyment, spiritual realization is not possible. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said, those who are too attached to seeking material possession, material enjoyment cannot reach Yoga Samadhi, absorption in Krishna consciousness. What is the verse? Second chapter. Bhogaiswarya prasaktanam tvaya partachetasam samadhona vidyate. So Prabhupada, in many places, Prabhupada in the purport, write the translation of the verses. It is quoted like that. So those who are too attached to seek material possession or material enjoyment cannot reach Yoga Samadhi. Propaganda that one can enjoy this life materially and at the same time spiritually advance is simply bogus. Material enjoyment, sense gratification and Krishna consciousness goes ill together. And the principle of renunciation are to avoid sex life, avoid meat eating, avoid intoxication, avoid gambling. These four principles are called tapasya. To absorb the mind in the Supreme, in Krishna consciousness, is the process of spiritual realization. Thus ends the Bhakti and the purport of the third canto, 20th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Conversation between Maitreya and Vidura. So tomorrow it will be more exciting. It will be chapter number 21. Tomorrow, we will come from Kardam Muni performing tapasya, Lord appearing to him, his conversation with the Lord, and after that the Lord departing, and Swambhu Manu coming with a proposal. And the chapter ends with Kardam Muni appreciating Swambhu Manu. That is where tomorrow's chapter will end. The marriage will happen day after tomorrow. Like Katha, there is marriage, no? 7 days Katha. Rukmini Vivah or some Krishna Vivah like that. So day after tomorrow, Kardam Muni and Devati, Mother Devati will get married. But tomorrow the match fixing will happen. Lord himself will fix the match. So if we read this section carefully, then we will rise above the desire for married life. Don't have concerns. It is told in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela, Mahaprabhu's marriage with Vishnupriya Devi is explained in great elaboration. And Vrindavan Das Thakur gave the benediction. Anyone who heartily recites and reads this pastime of Mahaprabhu getting married to Vishnupriya will lose the desire for his own marriage. That's the beauty. When you take pleasure in Lord getting married, then you understand apna marriage mein kya. Ek din ek din ka, one day is fun, rest all days different. So this is very interesting how Kardamuni serves a lot. So that we will see tomorrow. Thank you for joining. If there's any comment or question or any corrections, then you're most welcome. Online, offline, both. For 5 minutes we have. Long class, long time spoken, 3 hours. Yes, Dhananand Prabhu. ठीक है sir. राधा कृष्ण सेवा पाओ यही अभिलाष. Yes, Rishikesh.
Where I heard that demigods are not dependent on the yagyas what perform on the earthly planet. Like that example was given in Gordhan Puja, the Indra they perform sacrifice for Indra, but Indra never comes to it. So our demigods are really dependent because they are superior already. How they are dependent on the inferior like
the system is made by the Supreme Lord. Krishna tells in the Bhagavad Gita 3rd chapter that the demigods and human beings are interdependent in one way. So demigods provide the basic facilities for life on behalf of the Supreme Lord. For example, there is Vayu Dev, there is Varun Dev, there is Indra Dev. So they are Lord's agents to supply the necessities of human life. Surya Dev, they are Lord's agent. But when Krishna performed that Leela of Indra Puja, so that was because Indra started thinking himself to be independent. So if the performer understands or takes up the demigod to be independent, then he becomes a demigod worshipper, right? Which is one stage, which is not wrong totally. Demigod worshippers are better than people who are impersonalists or Mayavadis, because they are accepting an authority. Mayavadis are condemned more. So that's the step when they are submissive to demigods at least. And through demigod, they gradually become submissive to the Supreme Lord. So they do their duty toward the demigods, but ideal is that they do to demigods seeing that they are agents of the Supreme Lord. Similarly, demigods do their function of giving facility to the living entities on the planet Earth. But they also remember that we are doing it as an agent of the Supreme Lord. Then the understanding is correct. But sometimes the demigods become proud and they forget, they think we are independent. If we don't do, nothing will happen. And similarly, sometimes the worshipper, they are ignorant. They feel demigod is all in all. The Supreme Lord is not there. So ideal system is that demigod worship is a part or a stepping stone for rising higher. Whenever a person worships demigod for immediate effect, because Krishna says, "Na kamas tasir hitagyana prapadyante anya devata." So his mind is filled with lust. He wants something. He wants a beautiful wife. He wants some money. He wants good health. So they worship, but they worship them. But by obtaining that, by gaining higher knowledge, then they become detailed. Then they start, coming to Sakam Karma Yoga, Nishkam Karma Yoga, then they come to Jnana Yoga, then they aspire for impersonal liberation, then they start meditation, they become focused on seeing the Lord within the heart, Paramatma meditation. And then they meet a devotee, and then they become attracted toward the personal form of the Lord. So demigods, in one sense, it is not that for their living, they are dependent on human beings in one way, but for their functional part, it's a duty of the human being to pay their taxes to the respective demigods. But one who's serving the Supreme Lord, then he's already paying it. It is like directly transferring to the Supreme Lord. So that is the system made by the Lord. So for devotees, devotees respect the demigod, they don't worship the demigod. But for those who are not devotees, if somebody is worshipping the demigod, then gradually he should be elevated to worship the Supreme Lord by gradual elevation on that. It's not permanent, because demigods are impermanent, their worship is impermanent, the benediction which they give are impermanent. But intermediary, to bring one to the level of personalism, at least there's a person who fulfills your desire, to make him submissive to a higher order. Demigod worship is taken in that regard. So yes, demigods are not like dependent in that sense that their life does not go on, but in their duty sense, in the sense of performing their duty, it's the obligation for doing that sacrifice and giving that. Okay. Any other thing? Keshanaya Prabhu, any comments or any feedback?
I don't have any comments, Prabhu, but generally seen that brahmacharis are many of them. I don't comment on all, but many are very much disturbed by the sex desire. Maybe because of the previous activities or because of course, many previous lifetimes. But some generally think it's only marriage is the solution.
Yeah.
So could you comment on that?
Actually, one has to develop a right and clear understanding. So yes, lust is a problem, sexual desire is a problem. Not even subtle, gross sexual desire is a problem. So it's true that because of the previous background, the guna karma seeds which have gone, different people may be attracted or pushed or tempted to different degrees. It is there. At the same time, they have their free choice also. They have their strength of determination to see how they can best deal with it. So if first of all, the person should understand that the goal of life is not about being a brahmachari or being a grasta, it's about being attached to the devotion service of the Lord, practicing devotion service in an intense way. That is the paradigm. Then he will get clarity. Till the time a person is artificially just kind of attached to being a brahmachari alone, that will not help, because being a brahmachari is not a prerequisite, is not one of the 64 limbs of devotion service. So one has to come to that understanding that practicing devotion service with full sincerity and full intensity, that is the goal. And if one can practice that, brahmachari life is a very good platform, because it gives one that opportunity. But if one is finding that because of whatever kind of mindset one has got, whatever karma bija one has, temptation one has, because of that is finding it difficult and disturbing him and is interfering in the norms, in the maryada of brahmachari ashram, brahmachari life, then for the same purpose of practicing devotional service intensely, then one shift to grihastha ashram, not for sense enjoyment, but for practicing devotional service. Because he knows that once I fulfill this need, then I know that a lot of responsibility will come, a lot of obligations will come. But then I will take it up, but then my mind will be peaceful and allow me to practice more sincerely. So with this understanding, one enters grihastha life for sincerely practicing devotion service. Then if that is what the need is, then one will become purified gradually, and then one will rise above it. So one can try with determination by all means to be in brahmachari ashram and resist. But if somehow or other, if that is not becoming possible and one is crossing the lines of brahmachari order, like one is indulging in masturbation, or one is saying wrong things, or one is just too disturbed, one is becoming too irritated, one's body is becoming sickly, because sometimes, when the mind is pressurized and we goes too much against the mind, body also becomes sick. I know a lot of brahmacharis in ashram, they were so sick, and now they don't take even a single medicine. Ashram, their half room was filled with medicine, because the mind was so sick, they were going so much against and too opposed to their, kind of, in one sense, their emotional need. So, and one should not feel that, that grihastha ashram there is definitely a concession for having sex, but that is also under regulative principle. That is also under dharma. Tomorrow we'll discuss about that. Many times we don't understand that dharma viruddha bhuta, what is that? Dharma aviruddha bhuteshu kamosmi vartarshva. Krishna has said that sex life which is not contrary to religious principles. So then one should take to sex life which is in line with religious principle. So that is to be known, what is sex life in line with religious principles, so that practice of devotion service is the only solution to overcome lust. Ajamila's case we hear so many times. Ajamila was not a brahmachari, he was a grasta, right? He was married to a brahmani, but still he got so tempted by the prostitute, because it's a mental thing. It's not about, so many married people have extramarital affairs. They are married, but they have extramarital affairs. They want extra thing. So it's a disease of the mind. So devotion service is the solution. So one should be located, one should be situated at a place, in an ashram, in a way that one has the strength to practice devotion service very nicely. And that practice of devotion service will help him to become attracted to Radha Krishna. Then lust will go. Attraction is there. Attraction is a natural thing. But the attraction for Radha Krishna is there in contrast with attraction for the opposite sex. So then one has to gradually, by the practice of chanting the holy names, serving the great souls, serving the deities, then one's attraction has to go toward that. One cannot remain without attraction. That's a mayavad, or that's a wrong position, wrong disposition. It's not stable. So that should be the criteria. It takes time. It may take some trial and error. But if concepts are clear, then one will be confident at any stage of life. He may be confident as a brahmachari. If he feels the need to change, he will change, and he will be confident as a grasta, and then he will make advancement as a grasta also. It's an illusion to feel that brahmacharis are more advanced than grastas. Not everyone. It's not a general statement. It's a case specific. Good brahmacharis are advanced. Good grastas are also very advanced. And hypocritical brahmacharis are fallen. And attached grastas are also fallen. So it's not about ashram. It's about the practitioner. In any ashram, Radhesham was just telling, before coming for the class, he was telling, one class I will take how I spend my 2 days with Amarendra Prabhu and his brother Adi Gadadhar Prabhu and their wives. Just 5 of them. Can you imagine? Radhesham Prabhu with these 2 gentlemen, and he was telling, the once I tell you will understand how advanced their wives are. Radhesham Prabhu just told. Just people were coming before the class. So we will discuss, I will give some of the examples in our own congregation or in ISKCON scenario where we'll find that ashram is not an automatic sign of advancement. We have to have our own intense practice to advance. And depending on where our mind finds its what you can say, a position to be better situated, one can choose that. There's nothing harmful about that, nothing actually wrong about that at all. Brahmachari life in the typical sense, traditional sense, had been a training ground. When we talk of renounce order, that usually applies to sannyas. Usually. Brahmachari life is a practice ground, is a training ground, after which either one takes to grasta life or one continues and then takes sannyas finally. That is why giving up sannyas is a very abominable thing. It is highly criticized in the scriptures. It is called vatamsi, the person is called. But changing from brahmachari life is considered a natural course of action by the permission of Guru. If one finds that ashram is more suitable, one does that. In ISKCON and in Kali Yuga, now the things are different. We are choosing the brahmachari ashram at a much later stage. So that's why it becomes kind of difficult to understand where we best fit in. But by having proper knowledge of devotional service, we should know that as long as we are chanting Hare Krishna every day, taking prasadam, following the regulative principle, whether we are brahmachari or we later change on to some other ashram, life is perfect because process remains same. Prabhupada's mercy process doesn't depend on the ashram at all. So there's no immediate formula or some kind of, you can say some kind of device or some kind of test by which immediately one can know. One has to judge for himself where I can best and sincerely and intensely practice Krishna consciousness, and then it's fine. It's good to be it's wonderful to be brahmachari, no problem. And if one can't, rather than being hypocrite and doing wrong things in the ashram, it's better to be an honest grasta. And then, make your son a brahmachari. That's fine. We have, so many sons now around, right? Amalpuran Prabhu has Vamshi, and Raghunath Bhatta Prabhu has what? Radharaman. So we are hoping their sons will join brahmachari ashram. They have got that sukriti. Hypocrisy is condemned. Honesty, sincerity is admired. Ashram is a matter of personal choice. Krishna has never told that this ashram is more dear to me than this. Tomorrow we'll see how Lord reciprocated with Karda Muni. It's a very special case, a very interesting case. And somebody has worshipped the Lord for getting a wife. Tomorrow we'll see Karda Muni's mindset. It's quite nice. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji. I feel my understanding is that those brahmacharis, especially those have really serious issues, they should try different departments of services in different locations also. Generally staying in one temple has definitely their own services and their own areas. They have certain things, but changing environments or changing different services also can observe oneself. Just like going to a farm projects, trying to absorb themselves in a Gokuldham or whatever. Before taking a decision, because once you take a decision, if you are fixed in completely dedicating yourself to Prabhupada's mission, if we have that the purpose, the final purpose, and trying different services in different areas, is it wrong?
No, nothing wrong. One can try to change the environment, try to change the service, and take one's own time. There's no hurry, provided one is not kind of gliding down to breaking of the regulative principles of brahmacharya ashram. If one is going for that, that means he's not a fit candidate anywhere in any circumstance, any service. But one is feeling some kind of mental agitation, some kind of mental disturbance at one place, then he can try change of service, change of environment, and try it out. There's no harm about that. And after that, once you're like done that and it's consistently there, because it's from within, it's a need from within. So if it is coming from within, then even after change, sometime it may get adjusted, sometime it may not. So there's no problem. But the boundary line is that one should not break the regulative principles within brahmacharya ashram. What happens is in modern times, because of gadgets and access, then a person started having sense gratification, subtle sense gratification within the ashram paradigm. For example, one may start calling some mataji just to have some kind of satisfaction of talking to a woman. These are not unknown thing. It happens. Sometimes somebody may start watching wrong thing because mobile phones, they are not always into parental control mode. So one may do that. One may develop some connection with some congregation lady and interact in some way. So those things are wrong. Brahmacharya ashram thinks the principle should be preserved, and change of place, change of service, and all these things can definitely be tried. And if they help one, it's wonderful. It's definitely brahmacharya ashram is definitely comparatively, I would say that more easier even in these times, if one can, and to lead, because it's a single life, it's a life of complete dedication to Krishna, and we have all time to kind of struggle with our own anarthas and all without interference from others. So it's good. But if by doing everything is not working out, then one should not be hesitant to take a call also. It's fine. One should not feel that either brahmachari or nothing. Because many times people change ashram and they go away from devotional service. That means they have not understood it. One may be brahmachari and practice devotional service, and if one is not working out after everything, devotional service should continue. The goal is to practice devotional service in an ashram which is suitable for one's progress. So yes, change of service, change of place, and that is all wonderful. There's no problem about that. And ISKCON is one family. A devotee want to go from one place to another, is facilitated as long as he's sincere, he has not done anything wrong. Fine, temple adjust and all. One may try, because there may be specific agitation. Sometimes people agitated in city life. Sometimes, some specific disturbance is there with some Mataji or something. It happens because of some past life connection. Some Mataji is like kind of, one doesn't know what is there, but one get disturbed, one get agitated, coming in proximity of someone. It happens sometimes. So then in that case, somebody may choose another environment. If it works, fine. Then no problem with that. They are all in line.
Sure, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Nice, wonderful question. I think best part of the class was your question. Actually, in the course of because I'm not a very regular person to teach very long-term sessions. So this is, I have taught it earlier. I taught some Bhakti Vaibhav in Dharwad previously, not on a regular basis. So it's not my natural way of giving class or teaching, because I'm conscious that chapter has to end somehow. So I'm not taking too many discussions or things in between, but maybe in the form of questions, or sometime I'll see, because chapters are very long and every day we have to cover quite a bit of thing. So we will see. But at the end, we will try to have some time for questions also. There's something which get digested also. Okay, Hare Krishna. Granth Rashi on Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Jai Gaur.